Hello everyone, welcome to Frame Trap. It is good to be back. There's a lot of great stuff to talk about, but more important than video games right this very second, this is the first time on Frame Trap that we've had a special guest. Please, longtime friend, Ryan Stevens.
You got so loud.
Yeah.
He was like, hey, we're going to start now. And he's like,
Yeah.
hello!
That's how you start a podcast with a high energy.
I know. It's always doing mic checks, though, and then you mess up whoever's doing the mic check, because then you're louder than you're going to be. Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm a bad mic checker.
It's cool. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
I just wasn't expecting that bounding enthusiasm.
Yeah.
I think I'm saying bounding because you just said bounding, so I owe you points. Bloodworth, sorry.
I don't remember saying bounding, but okay.
I think we can't talk about it because I think it'd be considered an embargoed topic.
Okay.
Well,
I've already shut
this
everyone up.
This is started off on a note certainly, but Ryan.
Mission accomplished.
Yep. I think you're gonna be here. You're gonna keep the rest of us on our toes, because what I remember, you used to work with us at GameTrailers. You were my boss for a very long time, and whenever I was on a show with you, I would feel like there'd be moments where you would bring up something or you'd have a point of reference, and I'm like, I have no idea what that is or where that's coming from. That was something I always valued. When I say weird, I mean it affectionately.
That's cool.
Yeah.
No, I practice lateral thinking, and it doesn't always pay off.
But what have you been up to since GameTrailers? What's been going on with your life?
Well, I had a baby.
Mm-hmm.
You guys just met her.
Mm-hmm.
She's kind of cute. Yeah.
She's
Mallory.
adorable.
She's
Don't
cute.
undersell your baby.
That's probably been the biggest thing. Like a lot of other people, 2016 was not the best year. But I did have the baby, and the baby was good.
Mm-hmm.
I had a 104 fever for 3 weeks.
Oh.
And went to the hospital like 3 times. That wasn't fun.
Yeah.
And then I found out, unrelated, but they gave me all these tests, and then I found out I have a tumor on my kidney, but it's not cancerous, so that's cool. But my mom's still really worried, because, she's my mom.
Just a kidney bump.
Yeah, little guy hanging out, a little interloper. And yeah, still doing some stuff in video games. I think I did come on. What was your live show at Defy called?
Oh.
GT
GT Live.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I came on the first or second episode of that, I think. I did a podcast for a while, and I'm actually kicking myself in the butt because I didn't keep it up, and then Apple contacted me, and they were like, we'd like to highlight your podcast, but we need you to do new episodes. And I'm like, sorry, can't do it right now. So
Why?
that was annoying. Just lack of time.
What's the name of it?
Game is a 4-letter word. I did 11 episodes of various quality. Episode 5 in particular is particularly weird. I outsourced the entire episode through Fiverr, the gig economy. And then you guys remember Matthew Walden?
Yes.
He was, I think you replaced him.
I was his protege.
Yes.
Yeah.
At Seed or Beta.
He helped me out on an amazing episode where he went to an Earthbound convention. We take a 4-letter word and we kind of just run in any sort of direction for it. And the word was cult. And he went to the Earthbound convention and interviewed a bunch of people.
That's not fair, right?
But then it's an affectionate cult, And then he talked about the time he was infiltrating a cult for kind of doing research for a novel he was writing.
Yeah, I remember that actually. He talked to me about stuff like that.
Things didn't go so well,
Yeah.
but video games saved his life in a way. And Super Mario Sunshine.
But it's like an NPR quality podcast, basically. It's not just a bunch of people sitting in a room talking.
Oh yeah, no,
telling stories.
it's a documentary style more than a discussion style. Like this would be, I'd say most podcasts fall into 2 realms, and it's usually, well, I guess 3 if you count ones that are scripted and fictional, but those are only really starting to get popular, I think, now. But yeah, there's the discussion podcasts, which are like I think the most popular, and then there's like the kind of This American Lifestyle, where you tell a story, and there's still interviews and stuff like that, but things are like more edited and stuff like that. But yeah, I totally ripped off This American Life, like everyone in the world, to do stuff. There was that podcast, Life Well Wasted, by Robert Ashley. He was an ex-EGM guy, 1UP guy. He's the voice of the dude in Swords and Sorcery, but his episodes came out very infrequently, but he's got some good stuff. He did some amazing episodes as well, if you're into that sort of stuff.
Apple has never contacted us to say we would like to highlight you. So that's...
You got to contact the guy. There's like a podcast guy. I went to a podcast seminar with the guy who does Song Exploder, and he's like, yeah, you can just email this guy at Apple. Like, just do it. It can't hurt. And I did, and 14 months later, I was like, oh.
We have been highlighted in a weird way though.
What's that?
I've seen both the easy like there's a gaming section. Like when you go to the podcast homepage, I have seen both Frame Trap and the Easy Allies podcast kind of in that section. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought we were like invisible.
Yeah.
We're not in the top 10. We're not even
Yeah.
peeking.
Do you
into the
guys
top
like
10.
check
Somebody
the top
has
100?
watched us.
We're top 100 for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The weird algorithm with decay and everything. It's like any sort of like SEO optimizing thing. It's weird. The dance, so to speak.
Yeah, I honestly don't pay any attention to what the iTunes stats are.
Because we're Patreon supported. We don't really.
I watch our
Wait,
stats on YouTube.
You're saying
but
at some point we don't have to say anything about Squarespace?
Right.
Or what's Blue Apron? Okay.
Don't
I mean,
talk
we
about
might
that.
someday, but not today.
Not today. Today, I have a question for you, Ryan Stevens. You were talking about your kid, and I didn't know about all of this sickness that has befallen you, but I want to know, like, as an avid video game player, how has having a kid affected you?
Oh, it's awful.
Okay.
God awful.
Why is it awful?
I'll be honest with you. Like my main game that I've played, and I have put over 100 hours into it now, but my main game now is Overwatch. And I was traditionally someone who would play mainly single player games and mess around with multiplayer for a little bit. But that kind of you can pick up and leave and just play for 10-minute thing is very, very, very good.
Hold on. Kyle, you're shaking your head.
Lie detected.
No.
Because here's one thing. Here's one of my favorite Ryan Stevens secrets.
Oh, I did play a lot of Destiny after I got laid off.
You played a
Forgot
lot of
about that.
Destiny, and you played a lot of Halo.
I didn't play that much Halo.
You were way into Halo multiplayer.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I don't remember. What Halo specifically?
I don't remember. I feel like it was like Halo Reach or something you were way into. You were way deep into like playing Halo 4, and you're like, this is really good multiplayer. I love sticky grenades.
I do love sticky grenades. That's true.
I love the tactile feel
But I don't
of
know if
sticky
you can
grenades.
round that up. Like, yeah, no, I'll play a multiplayer game for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But I usually don't stick with it.
I guess Sticky Grenade, Halo 4 and Halo Reach, before my time at GameTrailers, before I knew you, Ryan Stevens, but I don't ever remember you being way into...
Yeah, like
outside of Destiny.
I've prestiged in a couple CODs, and then I was like beat multiplayer. I don't like
Right.
I don't do the lap or anything like that.
Yeah.
See, that's still more than most of us, though.
Oh yeah, no, for sure,
Prestige at all, yeah.
But like, yeah, but no, I think I was a Junkrat Symmetra main, and then I switched over to Reaper once I was like, why don't I try flanking? And I was like, then I like classes where you don't have to aim. Like Reaper, you just kind of hug people and shoot.
Ian has said the very same thing.
Symmetra, you're just like, what's the word I'm looking for? You're being like tactical. And then, I don't know, Junkrat, I like his little propulsion grenade actually as a damage grenade made it fun. But now I have like 40 hours on Reaper. Stephanie, my girlfriend calls, she's like, are you playing die again? Because Reaper's ult.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's been my main game.
The impression that I'm getting is that you, and this makes total sense to me as somebody that knows you, you like to play characters where like you kind of chuckle to yourself when you set up like a good trap. Like when you trick somebody.
Honestly, one of my favorite multiplayer experiences was the demo for Unreal Tournament 2003. The one where they first added Assault, which kind of had a narrative flow to it. Like it was basically defend and attack and going through. And I would just do these weird tricks that didn't involve playing well, but playing smart. And I kind of always enjoyed that sort of stuff, like hiding on like the bridge that comes across and jumping over, even if it's not completely laid out, so you could like be at the next go point when it does trigger and stuff like that.
I remember you really liked the Killzone multiplayer too.
Yeah, I think a lot of that had to do is I was just good at it, and I was like, oh, I'm good at this. I like it, but it's fun being a scrub at things and still enjoying it, which I think is hard for a lot of people to sometimes
well, I think
enjoy.
that's why you've seen such a lot of people take up Splatoon, because like you don't have to be like the best player on the team to contribute.
Totally.
Going back to the kid, going back to cute little Matterly, you were talking about Overwatch being a game that you got really into. You put more than 100 hours. Is it just because you can play it in short bursts, hop into quick play, hop out? Is that kind of the big draw?
Yeah, and also just like the mental space, like to like get like I've been chipping away at Dishonored 2, and it's like if putting 20 minutes into the game you might as well be subtracting like 20 minutes of how you've been playing. You want to like give it a big solid chunk of your time. This is the first time I still buy most things physically, and this is the first time I've had a notable physical game backlog. I have played the first 2 levels of Doom 3 times now. I keep trying to restart it because I take a big enough break.
Oh, yeah.
I love it, but it's also like kind of intense. I I did finish Last Guardian. That was like my one goal over Christmas.
Nice.
And
Last Guardian has been divisive amongst the easy
as
allies.
it should be, divisive games are the best games.
I agree.
Nice.
How did you fall on it?
I think The Last Guardian is probably one of the most analog games I've played in a long time. And not to get too like, hoity-toity, but like, it also has some of the, what's that thing people like to say? Ludo-narrative dissonance. Because that kid can climb like he's Spider-Man, but he runs like he's 4.5 years old. Mm-hmm. But I like the kind of.
I don't think that's Ludo narrative.
Well, no, it's like I think there's this weird idea where I think some of like the bad controls and stuff are kind of on purpose, like where they're trying to stick that on. Yeah. But then when you want to climb, you're like Velcro on everything, which seems to kind of counteract like the rest of the feel.
Did you know that that's the thing they changed since E3? There used to be the Shadow of the Colossus grip button.
Yeah, you would hold R1 to grab onto things.
So yeah, they did a small aside there. I did find getting some of the more hidden barrels deeply satisfying, but there's an interesting like level of luck, like trying to get the Trico to drop his tail in a particular spot so you can scurry down and then throw something and you see it roll off and you're like, guess I gotta restart for the 4th time. Also, once I figured out you could pull the heads off the little soldier guys, the game became way more fun. Yeah, when I was like, ooh, it feels good. It feels like they're actually popping. But it's interesting because I also feel like that game is also... half of the puzzles in that game aren't puzzles. It's like, get on Trico's back and he will take you where you need to go. And then there's like 6 really good puzzle moments amongst like a bunch of great architecture. And then the crescendo end is just amazing. The last, hour? I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Also, that middle cutscene, like after it ended, I pressed the share button and saved it, and I've like watched it 3 times. There's like a weird like Miyazaki feel to that. Yeah, that game is really, really interesting. And you end up thinking about it a lot. Has everyone here beat it?
Everyone here has beat it.
I did
we're still trying to be, I would say, a little sensitive with spoilers since it's not that
well, just slight spoiler on like the one puzzle
Don't
that I
even slight
love.
it. Don't do that slight spoiler.
Well, it's just a puzzle. That's what I'm gonna say. Don't say it or
Don't say it.
Okay.
Don't say it. Say what you loved about it though.
It again went to the analog nature of it, like how think back to Eco. Did everyone get the hidden sword in Eco? Can I do spoilers for Eco?
I never got the hidden sword.
I have not actually.
You have to land a basket in a hidden room.
Oh yeah,
Bloodworth, you ever do this?
I don't think I did. Maybe
the weird physics of it kind of goes back to like how they're trying to like do these actual like rendered physics, you know, and they're like, screw it, let's just do it. Let's have these real physics where you're bouncing off everything. But there's one puzzle that involves, without getting 1% spoiler, let's say it involves displacement, and I found it deeply satisfying.
Right.
To kind of, again, to me, like, everyone talks about headcanon now, and they talk about like, Mario 3 is a stage play or something like that. I don't know. But like I kind of like headcanon for like what the designers were thinking. And like for me, it's like, oh, this game is all about having kind of an analog experience with the AI not being 100% accurate, with you being scraping off. There's a famous AI guy named Martin Marinsky. I'm going to get his name wrong, but he works at MIT. And he said they were working on trying to make robots walk in the 80s. And walk like humans, and it was so hard. And then they looked at how bugs walk, and bugs, like with all their legs, are just kind of basically, let's just throw our legs out there and see how we go. And they kind of like went in that structure, and kind of made me think of that. They're like, let's just kind of let things go and kind of simmer and just see what actually happens. I don't know. It's an interesting kind of. It's rare that you get a game this big and this marketed that is this risky and not outrightly bad, like something like. I didn't play it, so I feel bad like picking on it. But like, what was the Homefront game last year? Like pretty awful, or like Battleborn or something like that. It's interesting to see something like, I don't know, it's kind of gutsy in a way, especially in something like Controls, because like we all played N64 games when people were still like 3D. What's going on here? But at this point, like bad Controls, which I wouldn't say Last Guardian has necessarily, but they're definitely like a weird throwback, and it's kind of an interesting space. Also. Is it triangle to jump?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But it's a funny thing because it's like it's almost like the early Assassin's Creeds where like everything's mapped to like a body part. It's like head, legs, arm.
Yeah, no, I mean the Assassin's Creed thing is always kind of funny because they were trying to do that whole like what they even called it the puppet system in the first game, and they're trying to do like a weird like diegetic way for like why everything makes sense and stuff like that. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. I always kind of appreciate those little tips of the hat, so to speak.
Yeah. I saw an interesting comment this morning as people are still finishing the game and commenting on it, where they're like, I hated this game, but then I watched somebody else's playthrough and it was like a different game, you know. So it's like that's like why it's so divisive. It is like the way it clicks in different people's minds and how their experiences go. It's weird.
I will say I didn't do a second playthrough, but even with my limited gaming time, this is why I kind of like have a love-hate relationship with trophies. Like I beat the game and I looked at some of the trophies and I was like, I didn't pull off 10 enemy heads. I'm like, gotta play until I get to the enemies again. I didn't throw Trico enough barrels. None of these are hidden trophies, by the way. So so I ended up playing the game for another couple hours, which is also interesting going back into it. You get a different feel and you start like noticing the environment more. I still think, not to turn this into an open world discussion because this game's not open world, but Shadow of the Colossus was open world and it was completely empty, but it being empty, it felt more full than a lot of games where they just put in stupid side stuff that I don't like doing in a lot of ways. Like the amount of like, there was no randomly generated stuff. You know, everything there was like placed with great care. And I don't know, not to go like, so like, you know, weeaboo, but there is that sort of kind of like sense that like there's kind of a sense of like communing with nature, even though it is a video game when you're kind of like there.
What do you think weeaboo means?
Yeah, that was an interesting word for that phrase.
Well, I
you know, like nature lovers, like weeaboos.
No, I mean like, you know, being like overly appreciative of the Japanese stuff.
Sure.
Well, welcome to the show.
Or getting spanked in the butt.
So
No, very few people.
Perry Bible
Yeah. Very few people I think know where.
The first time I ever actually heard the word weeaboo in the context of the Japanese stuff, it was
Yeah.
Miguel like talking about like Damiani or something.
That makes
And I
sense.
was like,
Yep.
"You're gonna spank him in the butt?" And like he's like,
Yeah.
"No." I'm like, "Oh, okay. I don't know what's going on."
you were talking about games that you just don't have the time to get through, and it's kind of been frustrating. Starting and stopping Doom a couple times, like not getting enough chunks of time to properly appreciate Dishonored 2. Are there other games that you've just completely missed that you haven't played a single second of that you feel some sort of guilt or regret for not getting to yet?
No, I mean that was one of the cool things in a weird way when I left like GameTrailers. I'm looking at this Batman picture we have up here, but I was like, I can totally skip Arkham Knight and I don't have to feel bad about it. You know, like I know
You don't
I probably
feel this obligation.
I know I'd have fun with it. The other thing, you know, you guys all have had deadlines.
Yeah.
It's weird to get that out of your system. Like now that I can like actually like, you know, kind of soak in the game, soak in the tub, so to speak. There's still kind of that mentality sometimes where like kind of gotta finish.
Yeah.
And that's kind of hard to shake in some points. I don't know. I'll say I have an Xbox One and I turn that thing on twice a month to download free games, and that's about it. I played Inside on it. But yeah, that thing gets very little use. I picked up. No, like yeah, it's weird. It's a weird system at this point. Like I don't feel like I'm sure Gears of War 4 is good. I don't feel obligated to play it.
Okay.
You know, I do want to play Quantum Break at some point.
So what you're telling me in so many words is you're playing favorites. Like you realize that there are a lot of good games out there, but you're okay with just picking
give me the
and choosing.
6.8s. Yeah, I
Yeah.
wanna...
Okay. I like that. So are you saying Last Guardian is a 6.8?
I think all the best games are 6.8s.
Okay. All right. I'll take that as you will.
Divisive games are the best games.
We've talked about Overwatch. We've talked about Last Guardian, but is there anything else that you've been playing recently within the last couple of weeks that you want to talk about?
Oh, well, the Nioh demo came out yesterday.
Yeah, last
Nioh's like the best. I mean, it reminds me more of Demon Souls because it's a game of levels, again, to quote Miguel. But I kind of like that feel. Also, it seems all of its systems and like, I'm a scrub. Like, the best way to play Dark Souls games, by the way, in my opinion, is you play them, you beat them, you play the DLC, and then you don't touch them. So when the new game comes out, you're awful again, and you get destroyed, and then you build up and you become a hero. The people that like just soul level 1 runs and everything, like I think you said, like when you had to review something, you like got your level 1 Dark Souls 2 character like soul level 97 in like 4 hours or something like that. It's more fun to just be like bad. It's like bowling, you know, you get that strike and you feel great, as opposed to like your endless gutter balls, you know.
I think, like, I'm not one of those people that wants to get to a point where I'm beating the game at soul level 1. I like going in and like having some mystery with the mechanics and what's going on, but I wouldn't say that it is like that's the best way to play it for everyone.
It's the best way for me.
Sure.
It's fun to be like, man, I can't remember like.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm never going to parry. And then, you know, like, oh, I can actually parry and stuff like that. But the Nioh is just crazy because it seems like the skill ceiling is really high, but you can still get through, except for maybe the bosses. But then it's when you summon dudes. You summon people to help you. And I like finding the little, you say the name again? The little green dudes?
Kodama. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like before we continue on, we've mentioned him a couple times now, and he's important to the history of game trailers and to like us just personally. Miguel Lopez, former Game Trailers Reviews editor,
and now he's like managing editor of Glixel, I think, or something.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, which Glixel is, for those who aren't familiar, it's a thing on Rolling Stone where they cover games. They do a lot of good stuff on there.
Yeah, they've been getting a lot of good pickup.
Like good journalism.
Yes. I love Kyle, how I feel like 3 different times through this podcast you just dug at us.
That's not a
Like,
dig at
subtly.
us. It's
I agree with you.
I won't name out like I don't want. There's lots of sites that are writing about video games where it's just like I don't know if I'm like into it, and
Right.
so like Glixel is worth a look.
I agree with you. You're saying in a sea of trash, it is not trash.
No, I'm just saying, hey, give it a shot. I'm not saying anything about anyone but Glixel.
Okay.
Not the best name.
I like the
No,
name.
I think it's weird. It sounds
I don't
weird.
like the name.
Is it too video gamey?
Feels
Yeah.
weird to say.
It feels like
Maybe that's why I felt like I had to like fight for it too
The
immediately.
GL
Okay.
Yeah.
rolling off is weird.
But they were smart. They started all their stuff on Rolling Stone before they moved over
Yeah.
to the Glixel stuff.
Yeah.
Can I, not games, but game related, I would like to share 2 things very quickly.
yeah.
Wow.
So, number 1
Oh, man.
is Lagrange Point.
Okay.
This was a Famicom game that had a special...
Oh my gosh, Kyle.
It sounds really weird coming through the screen. It's blocking a lot of your high ends on that snort.
Ryan, this is exactly what I was talking about.
So Lagrange Point was a Famicom game by Konami. Boo.
Okay.
But it and Castlevania 3 had these special mappers. This thing basically, if you actually get the cart and undo it, it actually has basically an extra. You hear about extra mappers, extra chips. It basically has an extra soundboard on it.
Oh, okay.
So it had, I can't remember, it has like 12 voice. So it's like the most advanced Famicom music / NES music available. And I've been like following this game for a while because a lot of like, people make like the Retrons and the analog NTs and all that stuff, and like a lot of things like couldn't emulate it properly.
Sure.
And so they did an actual recording. And also, I don't know if you guys are familiar with what's his name, Jeremy Parrish. He did the liner notes. for
Okay.
this.
I love Jeremy Parrish.
I love Jeremy Parrish as well. I got a game crush on that guy.
Listeners should know.
It's pretty cool.
Ryan pulled out a vinyl for the soundtrack of this Famicom game.
I feel like
they just
there
now
are,
figured out why Kyle just broke
I
down.
liked them before they were big.
I feel like there are a few questions here I've got about Lagrange Point.
It's a Phantasy Star style RPG.
So is this just like
There is a wrong
you
translation.
think this is a cool thing and you want to advocate it? Like what? How
Oh
did
yeah, no,
this-
I
how
think the
did this
music's
happen?
I think the music's really cool.
Yeah.
I always like the weird what's the word I'm looking for? You said there's a trivia section later on in the show?
There might
Spoilers.
be. It
I'm
depends.
so sorry.
It depends
Okay.
on what happens.
I don't know. I always like researching and finding the weirder stuff, and when the
Sure.
weird stuff's good stuff, that's makes it good stuff. That was a little
Yeah.
reductive, but you get.
Well,
the
yeah, I
idea.
mean, I found out about Euphoria from you. I'd never heard of that game before.
Yeah.
And then
mean,
I started streaming it, and I'm like, I can't leave work now. I need to finish this game.
you remember the guy when he crawls and he crawls on his back?
yeah.
That's the best part. It's a pretty good game. I bought Euphoria in Japan, Famicom version.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, from Mandrake. It was all like rated in a case and everything. But not much of a collector, but it's nice to have 1 or 2 keepsakes. And the other thing, for a long time, I think I had a pinned tweet that said reading was greater than gaming.
yeah.
So
I
this
eventually
book,
agreed with that tweet.
when you read Heartbreaking... No, what did you read? Oscar Wilde, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This book is pretty funny. It's a nonfiction memoir through the guise of video games. What's it called? It's called Gamelife, not to be confused with the soon-to-be shuttered Wired site or that really bad web show, if anyone remembers that.
Yeah, I do.
This feels
And the
like a
kid
book
became,
that
like-
wouldn't be sold in stores from that cover.
He did something bad.
He did do something bad.
Yeah.
But there's a chapter called 490 Points of Damage. But then in the next chapter, he's trying to tell someone that he was playing Bard's Tale 2. And he's like, I got hit for 490 points of damage. And the kid goes, you thought about something like 490 points of damage could be like, huh? He snarled. Like a baby getting hit by a truck, maybe. Yeah? Maybe that's like 200 points? And then the truck reverses back and forth? Think that would be like 490 points of damage? He looked at me with naked disgust. 490 points of damage isn't like anything, pussy. It's a good book. That was an excerpt.
490 points of damage isn't like anything. We cannot even think
It's
of
unfathomable.
How bad that would hurt.
Like if you get stabbed with a knife, that like in your arm.
That's like 10.
That's like that's like a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, maybe. I mean, it depends on in the context that we're talking about this damage. Like in Disgaea, where you're potentially doing millions of damage. 490 would be nothing.
No. I think 490 is still like a lot of damage. Like
no matter what, in any video game realm.
Yeah, I think if you actually, it's like if you get like what is it, 777 in Final Fantasy. I think if you actually get hit for exactly 490 points of damage, it's really bad.
Okay.
Like life.
I don't buy it.
Okay.
No.
We'll do some experiments after the show.
I'm gonna make a book called Gamelife 2.
Sequels.
The
Because the idea
entire-
is you're leveling up and you can withstand 490 points of damage
right.
eventually.
I want to live in a world, Ryan, where 490 points of damage is not that big of a deal.
Well, I don't think we live in that world as of yesterday.
So we've now had a show and tell, which has been very interesting. But I want to get back to Nioh because I think there's a lot to talk about with Nioh.
Sure.
You were talking about Demon Souls, and I think obviously the lazy comparison in a way is just like, oh, this is a Souls game that's not from Software. I don't think there's true. I think there's a lot of unique identity, a lot of unique DNA in Nioh, and I especially got that last night with it. And I think a lot of it has to do with the stamina recovery, which in a way I think is
key pulse thing.
Yeah. Like it, to me, that makes it a very different game than Souls has been. What do you think of it? Is it something that you, as you were playing through, you were talking about how you enjoyed kind of being bad and not knowing all of the mechanics, and part of the discovery being the fun. Did you feel compelled to master that? Was that something?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I played the alpha, the beta, and now this is it Last Chance? Whatever, the last demo. And I felt like I kind of like blew through the tutorial, and I was like, I'm forgetting something. And then I was like, I did it by accident once. I think it's like R1 or something when the bar's building up and when it's white's the best time to do it. And I was like, oh yeah, and it like clears the realm. There's so many intricate systems and how it plays and everything of the yokai and everything. It's interesting. But I would actually want to even circle back where I think stamina is like, when did Skyward Sword come out? Like a while ago now, right?
2012 is my guess.
2012 does sound right.
It's either 2000. I think it's 2011.
I remember everyone
11.
was talking about the motion controls with Skyward Sword. For me, I was like, oh my god, they added stamina to Zelda. That's what I thought was interesting. I think the idea of stamina being like a secondary system, like maintaining what's going on, kind of like regulating the action, giving the kind of the give and takes. Because what I love, and this is where Nioh also differs, is like I think they did make blocking a little more effective. In the alpha, blocking was very not effective. You were always eating damage. It was never 100% mitigation. I like the idea of taking a hit, Like, I think that's kind of an interesting idea where you're going to be like accepting damage. And it's not this regenerating health sort of idea. So I think with all the systems kind of like, people talk about like game loops and stuff like that. And here it's like life. And you get hit in this game, your life bar is destroyed, like from like a love tap. So I think that system combined with like stamina where you want to kind of just whack, and then you just end up like heaving, like being totally open, is pretty interesting, and that's kind of really simple to understand. But then there's the idea of like the flow state where you can be like, which I can't really do that often, but the idea where you're clearing the yokai shadow realm stuff that they summon. You're allowing yourself to keep doing damage. There's so much invincibility frames that it actually is kind of like almost like a double-sided, like a two-faced game in a way, which kind of is a negative connotation. But there is that kind of whole like the old like shield and wield where you can kind of like tap at people and take damage and trade blows and dart around and stuff like that. But then there's also the idea, and this is where you kind of get the Ninja Gaiden DNA, where you can kind of just be that badass, but you can't be that unrelegated badass, And that's why I think stamina is pretty interesting. But stamina recovery, good point, is what kind of like is the kind of like the teetering edge where it kind of like rules the kingdom,
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there, and before we do that, Kyle, you Zelda and stamina, your eyes lit up a little bit.
You're right. It was 2011. I played it in 2012.
Okay.
Got it. Fact check. Live fact checks.
Nice.
Wii U launched in 2012.
Did you just fact check that with your brain?
Yeah.
Okay, great. The dodge that you can do in Nioh where you recover stamina, I think is like it adds. In Dark Souls, the way that you approach enemies, I think you can kind of get into this mindset where it's like, all right, somebody is attacking me, I block their attack, I circle around them, I backstab, right? The most basic enemies, that's true. Whereas in Nioh, I think you have to pay a little bit more attention to your states. Like, I am in this state where, like, I'm out of stamina. If I'm out of stamina, I will be, like, hunched over, exhausted, and they'll get a free hit in. But the same is also true of your enemies, which I love.
And
which
you
you
can
do
punish.
not get in Dark Souls, where you don't have to pay attention to their stamina. There are so many moments where when you get good at it, you know, okay, their stamina bar is flashing red. I can go in and I can do an extra powerful attack. And I love that.
And we'll factor in also stances.
Right.
Which I am like a neophyte with. I'm not even sure what weapon I like. And also the customizing. It's weird because there's all these skill trees, but I'm not getting that. I'm getting a sense of, what's that cute phrase people like to say? Where you don't want to make a decision, it rhymes.
Ludonarrative dissonance.
That was close. Is that the buzzword anyway?
No,
okay.
it's not.
I'll
let you
my
know.
guess. No, it's analysis paralysis, right?
Oh,
you guys
I haven't heard that one.
No? It's the idea like I'm playing Dishonored right now and I have like 12 runes and I haven't like upgraded like anything.
I absolutely
Sure.
get this.
Yeah.
But like in Nioh, I kind of want to go in, but like it's the demo. But like I'm like, what am I going to pick? Like I'm not having like the normal analysis paralysis, but it's more out of my ignorance than like, oh, do I really want to invest in that? You know? Oh yeah, there's so many systems, but nothing feels overly convoluted, especially since the beta. The alpha was a little bit of a mess with like it was just vomiting loot at you.
Right.
You know, it was way too much of a Borderlands Diablo style loot system. Now they still have it, but they take it back a step, which I
Nice.
think is good.
The other thing that I haven't played the full thing, but what I got, especially from this Last Chance trial, that I really like is I think it challenges you wanting to just do the most damage with something in a really great way, and in a way that I don't think even the Souls games like effectively challenge very well. Where like there are a lot of instances in Nioh where wielding something that doesn't do that much damage but is very quick might work better for you. And you kind of just have to wrap your head around on that. Like when you hit a guy.
Wait, so are you using axes?
So I'm using axes. I prefer the heavy weapons.
That's what your sentence is. That's what your statement says to me, is that you're using axes.
I'm using axes, yeah. And they're really cumbersome. They're hard to use in a lot of situations. But
do you use them in the attack stance as well? Or like the high stance?
Oh yeah, I pretty much exclusively use.
So you're just about getting those big numbers.
No, it's not just that. I like the moveset that it has. I
Okay.
like the big vertical swing because of its reach, because of its damage. It just feels good in so many different situations. And the other thing about Nioh is how you can build out the combos. So you can do this big spinning attack that one hits a lot of things, comes after an overhead attack. Like just all of these pieces in Nioh that you can put together in really interesting ways.
Is the chain and hook new? Or was that in the last one?
I think it was in the last one, but I'm
Okay,
not
because
sure.
I was like, I don't remember this.
Yeah.
No, I was just curious.
Some people swear by that.
Did you beat the Ogress then?
I did.
Okay, I have not
First
beat the
try.
Ogress yet.
Yeah.
Scrub.
But you love it.
Oh, I
You're
love
in your
it.
happy place right
Yeah,
now.
no, it's an interesting game because the mechanics are like, I think of like our old friend Justin Spear loved Shinobi on the PS2, which wasn't really the best game from a level design perspective, but from like a mechanic standpoint, it was like, this is really well executed and rewards skill. And I think like, again, Nioh is weird because like, I think there was an interview recently where they're like, we decided to make the game hard because who cares what people want or something like that. I'm really simplifying that. But I think you can still kind of get through this game and the levels are fun to explore. I love the shortcuts, opening the treasure chest, finding new gear, trying to actually take out one of those yokai that won't respawn. You know, should I do it on this run? Is it worth it? Blah, blah, blah. Should I reset the level? All that normal stuff. But then, like you said, there is this idea of this whole like chaining thing. Well, the combat in Dark Souls would play with that stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, I know everyone dogs in Dark Souls 2, but I think Dark Souls 2 probably had the more build up with the left hand, right hand weirdness of everything and dual handing being really overthought in some ways. So it's interesting that you can kind of also appreciate it on two different levels in like that way as well. And with those Twilight missions where like all the human enemies are replaced with demons and stuff like that, like I think there is going to be a lot to get through. Also, I don't know if you saw in one of the menus, there's a thing called Hidden Treehouse, and I don't know or Hidden Tea House. I don't know what that is.
I saw it. I have no idea what
But
it is.
I want to know what the Hidden Tea House is.
I bet it's really cool. It sounds cool.
Yeah, I like tea.
Yeah, I think Nioh
Darjeeling.
promotes a proactive play style, and you can play proactively in the Souls games, but much like Bloodborne, I think the mechanics that are in place reward you more immediately for getting in there and getting that timing down and recovering your key and like attacking before they can do anything. I love that. I love having all of those different elements to balance and think about all the time, not just blocking. Because as you were saying, even though they've made it more viable, like just the sheer stamina drain.
I guess Bloodborne did that too, right?
Yeah,
Bloodborne
exactly.
was like the shield was a joke
Right.
weapon. Yeah. I'm curious, did you like combat in Grandia?
Oh, I love it.
Because Grandia, it wasn't so much about hitting them; it was about them not hitting you. You're like, it's like because you'd hit them and it'd reset their bar. It's always about, I'm just gonna let you not hit me, and eventually you do destroy them. But there is something kind of fun and a little perverse about kind of doing it in reverse. The idea of not getting hit being a goal within itself.
Kyle Bosman, Daniel Bloodworth.
Yeah.
A lot of the allies have talked about Nioh. They've been really excited about it. What is the temperature gauge for your feelings on Nioh?
My feelings are hot. I'm just gonna watch you all play it.
Okay. So you're not gonna you're keenly interested, not gonna play a single second.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Run me through that thought process.
There are a limited amount of games we can play.
Okay.
I've not finished Dark Souls 3. I definitely love Dark Souls 3 and all the time I put into it, but I'm simply like a scrub. I'm a simple scrub.
Join me.
Yeah, I've accepted my role as a scrub. I still intend to finish Dark Souls 3.
Okay.
But it's a lot for me to get through. And so, there's other games I'm going to prioritize ahead of Nioh.
A couple of questions.
Yeah.
So Ryan was talking about the joys of being a scrub, right? How that can, like, having yourself getting beat down. Is that something you enjoy, or do you wish you weren't a scrub? And I don't mean that
If
in
I
like an
truly
aggressive
wished
way.
that I weren't a scrub, I would just play games better. I would just put in more time and get better.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be fair, it's very rare games where it's a rare crossover where you're a scrub and you really like the game and you have fun playing that said game as a scrub, I would say, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like the setting stuff for Dark Souls or Bloodborne or even Nioh, I'm still not really quite sure what's going on with the story. I think it's like based on some Akira Kurosawa unwritten novel or something like that, but like or a screenplay. I don't really understand.
Nioh, we learned, is based off history.
Sure, but I think there's more to it than that.
And there was a story, there was a novel written about that.
But in
historical
history,
event.
did people actually carry cats in their pocket to tell time?
Yes, they did. That was a thing. I'm pretty sure.
So here's what it
I
is.
know.
pretty
When I
sure.
was a Boy Scout, they told you could tell time by looking at a cat's eye, but I don't know.
It
if
was a ninja thing. It was a ninja thing. The amount of the eyes that is open is based off like how much sun there is in the sky.
Yeah, I know it's real, but
Yeah.
but they actually carry them in their pockets?
Some
And be
ninja
like,
did.
Good sir, what time is it? Meow, and get the
Yeah.
okay. Some ninjas.
Some ninjas. Fact.
Head internet.
We've hit on the thing that will be 20% of the comments, I think, for this video. Kyle,
Yeah.
so you
I'm allergic to
played
cats.
Bloodborne, having not played a Souls game before.
Yeah.
And you voted on it for Game of the Year. You loved it.
I do.
You loved its world. You love how it presented itself.
Yeah.
You liked fighting things with the Tonitrus.
Ooh, you know what the difference might be?
What is the difference?
The levels. How you talk about this game is levels. That might be the big difference.
Yeah,
for
this
me.
is the man that can't stand Super Mario Galaxy 2.
All right. Not the same thing at all, but a game you love and how it presents itself is Tropical Freeze,
Yeah.
a level-based game.
Yeah.
Does not have a connected world in the sense that Bloodborne has a connected world.
Oh ho.
It's different. The way it's presented is different. You get kicked back and out into a menu, right? And then you select the stage. It's
Yeah.
not the same thing as Bloodborne.
Yeah, it's definitely not the same. What? What's wrong?
This just seems like a reach.
What?
I don't know. Like, what are you trying to? You're trying to put up Donkey Kong
No.
Tropical Freeze as a.
No. What I'm saying is I'm trying to pinpoint Bosman's feelings as to why he was willing to play a Bloodborne and love it and not play Nioh. That's all I'm trying to do. And you mentioned that it's just because there's a lot of games. I'm trying to see if there are any other reasons.
Because it's like, the thing I love about Bloodborne isn't necessarily the combat or it is like that world. It's traveling and exploring that one cohesive world, I think, is why I got so into it. I love that there was no map and that there was no waypoint marker. And that was really like why I got so into it, is just the enthusiasm you have of peeking around a corner and exploring this whole new area, and you're not sure if you're going the right way or the wrong way, and you're not sure if it'll lead to a good item or just your death. Like, that's super exciting.
I love small, intimate spaces. That's why I like Mario 64 so much. Like, I mean, that's maybe not the best thing to talk about, but like that's what I always go back to. And what I like about Demon Souls, I love the interconnected. I like everyone. The first time you go down the elevator in the cathedral in Dark Souls and you're back at Firelink Shrine, you're like, what? But
Yeah.
I love the idea of a little world that you can completely map in your head. So I do like levels sometimes when they are nonlinear. They loop back on themselves as like the not literally non-Euclidean geometry, but there's this idea that like this thing is trying to make the maximum use of its space.
Sorry, non-Euclidean geometry?
Euclidean. I thought you were a big fan of Ghostbusters.
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. Anyway, but like that's
Wait,
why.
what is that word? What does that mean?
It's when like not normal geometry. I can't give you the actual answer, but like when people show like this is a 4-dimensional hypercube, that kind of thing.
All right.
That's why I still have like also I played Demon Souls before. I played Dark Souls, and you always remember your first. But that's why I always have a soft spot. The interconnected world is brilliant, and how it fits together is insane. And you can parcel out each of those little worlds, as they pop up the name, like you're like Blight Town or whatever. But I do like a level sometimes because you feel like there is an idea of kind of like, I know this, I own this, it's great. When it is, but it still has that kind of idea of that it can be an explored area, but not something you're going to get lost in.
Because I think Mario 64 encourages that. You're going back to that level multiple times to explore it more and find secrets within it. I assume Nioh is one and done, right? You finish the level and you're done with it?
You get the little...
Stuff in the alpha, there's a lot of secrets.
Guys. Yeah, you want to find the little dudes, you want to...
But do you ever return to a level?
We don't know.
Oh,
we don't really know how that structure is going to be for that game, to be fair. So that's a good point. We don't really know if there would be points to go back.
Well,
other than like the Twilight missions, I don't really know.
If we give it a 5-star, I'll play it. Those are the stakes, man.
Daniel Bloodworth, how are you feeling about Nioh?
I'm pretty excited for it. I did the alpha all the way through, both levels. Really, really especially enjoyed the second level and just like how different the character design was from the first one. And then I think the beta came out at some time when I couldn't even play it, and now it's so close to launch that I'm like, I don't feel the need to jump into another demo. I want to play the game when it comes out. So I don't know for sure that I'll be there on day one. I tend to like to finish a game and then move on to the next game rather than playing like 4 things at once. But it's something I definitely want to play this year.
I definitely feel like Nioh is one of those games where there's so much to it and the challenge is so stiff and so consistent where when you're playing it, it kind of pushes everything out of the way. Like it demands your full attention for a very long period of time.
I mean, I put a lot of time into that alpha, more than some games, I think.
Yeah. A great memory I have with Bloodworth is how he played Dark Souls 2 at the GT offices. And I feel like there were people at GT that got identified as Souls people, but I think Bloodworth played Dark Souls 2 in a really great way because he did a build that none of us were doing. You were like very big into the bell tower PvP as well, weren't you?
Oh yeah.
Whoa.
And he would
setting
have
up the traps and stuff.
Stories about those PvP excursions and just watching him play and kind of the things that he would get into and how focused he was while he was doing it is a really neat thing to play and to see. And I hope that when you play through Nioh, you have similar stories to share. So, the last thing that I want to say about the Last Chance trial, and you were talking about not wanting to play it since it's so close to release, something that I wanted to do is we had the alpha, we had this beta, and then we had this Last Chance trial. And Nioh, by the time I finished the beta, I was like, this is a great thing. I really, really love this. Do you ever have those moments with games where you have that seed of doubt where you're like, is this really as great as I think it is? And you kind of play it with that mindset where you are being extra critical, like you're kind of with a fine-tooth comb on every little thing. I did that with this trial, and it passed that test. Like, it is too early to say, but I feel so confident going in to the full release now that I've played through the final trial that this is going to be just an absolutely incredible game. Like, I'm very excited for it.
Ben, someday I want to do a video about how, and I know meta scores and open critic scores don't matter, but our highest rated game from last year was 93. Whereas we used to get games that would average 98s and things like that. Generally, our average of reviews is lower and lower. And I think it's what you're just talking about. A lot of reviewers step into a review saying, is this as great as people think it's going to be? And so I think like there's this weird like reactive environment of reviewership right now where...
Reviewership?
Yeah, I don't know. Reviewing, where reviewers like... They're meaner to games than they used to be. I don't think games are worse. I think games are better. I don't mind it too much. I think it's good that the highest rated game of last year is a 93.
Yeah.
Because it just used to be higher. It used to be like high scores were candy, I think.
What was that game? What was the 93?
It was Uncharted 4, Thief's End.
Which there's still a lot of division about. There's still a lot of people that really don't like Uncharted.
Exactly. The highest rated game of last year, a lot of people hate, which is really interesting to me.
I also think kind of what you
They're
were
haters,
saying
for sure.
where people are being meaner.
Yeah.
I think an important addition to that is there are more voices that are coming from a different place.
Sure.
I think 10 years ago, 15 years ago,
It's just big news sites?
It's big sites that honestly function in a nearly identical way.
Sure.
I think the voices that people were paying attention to were like slightly different variations from each other. And now you have so many more voices that are catering to very specific types of audiences that want different things from those voices. And so I think it makes sense that the average is going down.
It's great that someone like Nick Plessis can give Yakuza a 5 out of 10.
Yes, though, it is.
It is.
It actually
Yeah,
is
it
a good
is.
thing.
Divisive games are the best games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We know Nick. Sorry. Small disclaimer.
Beefed. Nick Plessis. Big fan. I'm
No.
a big fan of Nick Plessis.
Yeah, not to get too off topic, but
Sorry.
when I see a really low score, and this is just me, people can think however they want, but I don't immediately go, that person is wrong. I go, I want to see what they have to say.
Yeah.
And
And then we say that person is wrong.
right.
Well, even no. When you find the review score that you disagree with, but you agree with what they're saying, I don't remember who it did. Rock Paper Shotgun reviewed the second part of Broken Age, and they hated it. And I read it, and I agreed with everything that he said. And I'm still really like the second part of Broken Age, though.
I don't like it.
Did you like the first part?
I liked it more.
Okay.
But I wasn't in love with it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say love, but
That's a really
hate.
weird case because if you play that like when the second part came out, you probably don't see what the big deal is. If you waited for that for however the heck long that was.
Well, the second part is also weird because they took a lot of feedback from the first part of the game, which is also, to go back to Nioh for 5 seconds, what an interesting marketing push, releasing these demos, actually responding to feedback in a huge way between the alpha and the beta, and rewarding people with in-game items for participating in the demo. But not just participating, but actually showing that can you get through it? Can you have this badge of honor? Instead of oh, I got this thing because I pre-ordered it. I feel like you could have delivered that line better.
No, that was great.
But
I think it's really encouraging. It's out of a genuine effort to make the game better.
And it has worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really, really like what they're doing.
But talking about
I'd like to see
incorporating
other
that
people
feedback
do
and
that.
making a better game, I think something that I still get the sense of for Nioh and the reasons why I feel so confident going into the release is it has an identity that it hasn't lost with these improvements, with this feedback, with the comparisons. Every second I play of Nioh, it feels so considered and meticulous, and we wanted to accomplish this thing. They're chasing after something very specific, which is not something you always get with games, or even games out of that studio, I would say. Ninja Gaiden 3, for example, feels like a game that wasn't chasing its own thing, but was trying to appease people for the sake of being big.
Devil May Cry 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
A Devil May Cry 2 situation. Kyle.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the Grand Theft Auto 4 review.
Whoa.
Yeah. I want to go back in time.
Okay, so who reviewed this?
A lot of people.
Oh, great. And it
so
reviewed very well.
Yeah, it reviewed very well.
Yes.
And me personally, I really like Grand Theft Auto 4.
Yeah.
A lot. I think it's a great game. But if you go back and you read some of those reviews, I'm generalizing and hyperbolizing a bit here, but basically some of those reviews make it seem like it is the second coming of Christ. It is just all of the comparisons that you expect. This is the Godfather of video games, jumping in on all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, in a lot of ways, it wasn't universal. There were voices that did not agree with this, but there was a lot of people talking like that.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like that happens as much anymore.
You're
and I
right.
think that's really good.
Yeah.
Because when people were playing Grand Theft Auto 4, there was a very large, I would say, section of people that were playing that says, actually, no, this isn't as good as you're saying it is.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you're selling me a bill of goods here. And I think by increasing voices and having those voices be more discerning, even though I would argue that those discerning voices are sometimes negative for the sake of being negative, which is also unhealthy. Like I'm glad we don't have people saying as often, this is the Godfather of video games, this is the Citizen Kane of video games, that there's some perspective there, or you can find it if you're willing to look hard enough.
So Red Dead Redemption 2, do we think that'll hit the 98? I don't think it will.
Why?
I think there will be people who give that game a 7.
Do you think they'll actually believe it's a 7, or are they just?
Because you're right, Ben. I didn't think of that other end of the people who genuinely just want to be nasty for the sake of entertainment, almost. You know? I believe there is somebody out there who's going to give that same game a 7 and believes it's a 7.
Do you think Citizen Kane's that good?
Citizen Kane is a 7. We actually watched it in one of my film classes, and I get it. I can't be snarky about Citizen Kane.
I actually think it's great.
It is good. When people say this is the Citizen Kane, it's like, oh yeah. And when they explain everything that it did to push things forward, and how it's like some meta commentary on an actual man who like was really bitter about the movie, like that's cool. That's cool stuff.
But I guess this is like, how hard is it to get your voice added to Metacritic? Is it as hard as it's still a little harder than getting your review on GameFAQs?
It took us a while.
Yeah, it took us a while.
But you did, right?
Yeah. It took.
But like
it really just took me picking up the phone at the right time.
But I mean, to talk about that, I mean, this is like
pace.
going into like how the sausage is made, kind of. But it's like, like think about it this way: like critically acclaimed movies. I don't know if you open it up to the populace. Like the quote, I always like. I don't know where this quote comes from, so it may be a lie. But they say back in Shakespeare's time, people preferred bear baiting, where they just like poke bears with sticks than watching the play, So it's like things that are really good don't necessarily always like even in popular media don't always, because Shakespeare was popular media, that doesn't always capture everyone's like mindset.
Sure.
Well, and then, there's going to be people who like don't like open worlds. I don't like the horses. I don't like whatever, like there's a lot of things that could just be like off factors. And that's the whole, it always run like how objective and how subjective are you in a game review?
Right.
And it depends on who you ask. Did you guys see that site? I think it got taken down, but Objective Game Reviews.
No.
It only listed facts about the game, but then it would give it a number score at the end.
Oh my God.
It was amazing.
Was it a joke or was they serious?
I was a joke, but I think that, but it was great. But it would be like, like this is a 4-player game. The graphics are rendered like the closest thing we have to objective reviews, and they can only review the graphics, is Digital Foundry's reviews of graphics. That is like a Consumer Reports level. We can review these graphics on a technical level, not the art, but on the technical merits of this game. I can give you an objective review of these graphics.
And even those get kind of subjective in it, and I don't even mind it. When they talk about the direction of things and the feel of things and things like that, they'll go a little subjective even. The hard facts of like 1080p 30 frames per second and it dips, you're right, but if you like read through the article, they'll talk about how nice things look.
I worked at CVS when I was growing up, and I'd always like look through the magazines, and they had Consumer Reports, and like on the cover once it's like, we're reviewing condoms, and I'm like, what? And it's just they were like just hooking them up to like bicycle pumps, to test like the PSI or whatever, and I'm like, oh, so this is how you objectively review condoms, But we really want a Consumer Reports for video game reviews? Condoms wasn't the magic word.
It was not.
Mimics.
No, I love mimics.
I was trying to find it.
Your love for mimics made me love mimics.
They're really good.
Yeah.
Your love of mimics did indeed give me.
Well, your love of mimics for me was revealed at like the best time, like when we first saw those Dark Souls mimics.
Yeah, that's what
holy crap, that mimic.
I would say, what's the dude who grabs you in Zelda and puts you back at the beginning of the level?
Only Damiani.
Wallmaster.
Yeah,
nice.
That dude is like in the mimic family,
Mm-hmm.
No, because you don't walk up to the hand thinking this is going to be good.
But I feel like he does something. He's like an offshot cousin. Like the mimic is like, oh, this is a chest. This is not an enemy. Oh, it's an enemy.
Yeah.
And this is like, oh, an enemy will hurt me. An enemy will hinder me in some way. And this is like, we're gonna move you. Like it is still a hindrance, but I feel like it's more of like a.
Yeah, you don't take damage from a Wallmaster, right?
When I was 7 and playing Legend of Zelda for the first time, and I'm like, you hear the digitized breathing of the boss, like 2 rooms out.
Yeah.
You're like, you're going really slow, and then that guy grabs you and sends you to the back of the level. It's the biggest like FU in the world.
Sure.
And it's kind of what I get. I get that kind of same vibe when like you open the chest and the mimic comes out or whatnot.
They're in the FU family.
The FU family.
Okay.
Kyle Bosman.
Yeah.
What have you been playing?
I just want to say it's really great to have Ryan here.
It is.
For sure.
I almost think we could just interview Ryan for the rest of this podcast.
We could.
Actually,
I got 2 games. First one I really like a lot. It's called I Expect You to Die. This is a VR game.
Okay.
Expect you to die.
I expect you to die.
Mr. Bond.
Yeah, exactly. It is. You are a secret agent, and you are in secret agent scenarios in VR, and it's basically survive this scenario or extract some data, things like that. I think there are only 4 in the game, 4 scenarios that it puts you in. It's I beat it in like 2.5 hours. It's another short VR game that costs a lot of money.
Is it PSVR?
PSVR, yeah.
Okay.
I think it might also be on other platforms. I didn't check. Sorry about it, everybody. From Shell Games, which I only remember from on GTTV, we had a segment called like Science of Games.
Oh, yeah.
And
Michael Kakao or something?
yeah, he was the first guy. Kaku, I think it was.
Kaku, yeah.
Michio Kaku.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well
Figure
done,
skater.
Blood.
PhD figure skater.
Yeah, and so after he like became expensive, and so we had to find a replacement guest, and we found Jesse Shell. And
Oh,
so,
yeah.
yeah, and this is his studio actually, which is kind of cool that like that all looped around. Anyway, to me, VR so far is still clumsy, and so the games kind of need to be comedic. So even in this like secret agent kind of like James Bond style game, it's still goofy, it's still jokey, and I think it needs to be. I think they need to set that tone because you drop things and things are still goofy. I love it. I'll give you some of the scenarios. I won't give them all because that would be spoiling the entire game. But let's do the second one. So the second one is you need to steal some information for this bomb that it's going to be like a gas bomb, and so you need to sneak into the lab. And so you're a window washer. And so you're up on the side of a building in the little window washers, like crane thing. And you have like some tools to your side and some information and a window. And so like you have to shoot the glass, but then, oh my God, there's secret lasers. And the only way to see the secret lasers, and it doesn't tell you this, you have to just figure this out with your surroundings. You use the spray bottle that you have because you're a window washer and you spray it and then you can see the lasers. And you also have telekinetic powers. That's just basically, it makes no sense in the game really. They're like, well, agent, we also implanted telekinetic powers into your brain. It's so you can use VR. It's so you can open things far away without having to reach super far away.
Okay.
And so you like reach into a locker and you can take like an ID card and you have to like bring it through the lasers or you could shoot.
So it's like irritating
ice.
stick?
Kind of, yeah, because you have complete control over it because it is in VR. And I mean, I say that the controls are sloppy, but you can still do a lot of things that you couldn't with analog sticks. It's still very interesting to be able to like pull a thing through 3D space and then push it back through 3D space and control it yourself that whole time. Still feels good. But anyway, like you have to mix potions and use the different mixes in different areas. And at one point, there's a guy in a window behind you, and it's like, quick, act like you're window washing again. So you have to like find the old supplies of the window washing stuff and like redo that. And so that is a thing you can't do in other games, right? Like, oh, I just put those 2 other things right there. I have to go grab them quick and then use them as a window washer would. That's a really interesting VR only application.
What I love about everything you're saying is I'm having a hard time visualizing all this stuff because one, there's just so much. Like you're spraying windows.
Yeah.
There are these lasers. You have telekinetic powers, and like when you talk about a third-person shooter, right? If you were describing a third-person shooter, I would immediately know what you're talking about. I would have an image in my mind because I feel like there's a standard, there's an expectation. Like this, we have defined what this thing is, and if you deviate too much from that, people won't be happy. Whereas when you say what is a VR game, we have no idea.
Yeah.
And
this one I would say you could compare very easily to Job Simulator in that you're standing in a spot, you're sitting in this game and just grabbing things and seeing how they interact with each other. The big difference between this and Job Simulator is you can fail. There's lots of consequences to your actions. If you do this, One was super annoying. If you grab a grenade, it's fine. If you grab the pin of the grenade, you'll die. And for some reason, I grabbed a lot of pins of grenades and exploded lots of times because it's not like super precise. You know what I mean? But yeah, if you like burn a thing, if you drop a thing that was needed to pass the level, if you break some glass that has poison behind it, you'll die and have to restart and restart and restart. So it adds this anxiety of survival. There are some situations where you're like in enclosed environments and you have a time limit and just things need to happen right.
So if you do it perfectly, how long does the scenario take you to do?
There are speed runs. If you finish a level, it's like, hey, you could have beaten that in 35 seconds, man. Go and try it. I'm like, no, thanks. I'm okay. But some of them are like 6 minutes.
All of them. So one of the things I noticed in a lot of VR games, not all of them, a lot of them are changing now. I think for PSVR, not as much. Well, I don't know. I guess RE7's coming out, but you're not literally a turret, but a lot of those games you're a turret. You're in one spot.
Yeah.
Like in this game, it sounds like you're not. Maybe you are shooting later, but like
you're in one spot in each of the scenarios. Yeah.
What I found most interesting about what you just said, though, was when you have to wash the window, because I keep thinking of. Well, I know there's a lawsuit right now, but I keep thinking of the investment into Oculus by Facebook.
Sure.
And I'm thinking games might not be where VR is going in the long run, but like short-term experiences. And when you're washing that window, I mean, games have you do this, but in a physical manner. You were acting, you know?
Yeah.
You were acting and an AI agent was trying to read you. And we've seen that before in lots of stealth games and stuff like that. But you put that into a more interactive element with like maybe multiplayer or something like that. And again, I'm just kind of curious to see where like that stuff's going to go.
Yeah.
Has anyone played Budget Cuts? That's the only one that I really...
I've not played Budget
That's
Cuts.
the one. That is the one.
Yeah.
Also, that's the one where everyone always hits their head, supposedly. Like, you look, you're crawling through a thing. Budget Cuts is the one because they solved the turret problem by giving you a portal gun. So you don't have to do clunky locomotion. You kind of say where you want to go.
Yeah.
Also, you throw knives.
Yeah, like Batman, you can kind of port around as well.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of games let you like choose a destination and port there. I think.
But again, it's like, how is that worked into the fiction of the game? Like,
oh, sure.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, like Robinson the Journey is a game I played where you have complete exploration and
how was it?
You want to vom, you get sick.
Sure.
Vom?
Yeah.
The kids are saying?
Yeah.
We used to say Ralph.
I have two questions. Having recently jumped on the PSVR train, there's a sensation that has happened to me probably 4 or 5 times, and I stop when it happens. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. The biggest difficulty for me with VR in a lot of these games is realizing that I have to pay more attention. Like, I have to make more of an effort to see things.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because when you're playing so many video games, even first-person games, it is incredibly simple to just spin around and get an entire look at the view, and it's like, okay, this is in front of me, this is behind me. Whereas now, like, having to physically move your body, there have been a lot of games where it's like, oh, that thing is over there. I don't know why I just keep staring ahead. Like, why didn't I turn around?
Yeah.
Does that happen to you?
Oh, yeah. In situations where it's like, oh, where is that thing where did I put that thing? I know where that is. Where did I put it? And you don't have a lot of time. You have 3 seconds to find that thing and you die. And then you're like, okay, the next time through, I'm putting that thing in a very particular spot. I know where this needs to be.
Yeah.
It's very cool. I love that. I really, really liked my time with that game.
Another thing that I'm not even embarrassed to admit, and I know you've done this as well, but I was playing Job Simulator, and then one of the jobs that you can do in Job Simulator is you have cars come up and you have to...
Loved this one.
Yeah, you have to... They want specific things done with their vehicles. What I did, I don't know why I kept doing it for like the entire 45 minutes that I was playing it, is when they would drive off, I would just wave to them. I don't have to wave from them. I don't get anything from that. There's no trophy.
You're RPing.
Yeah, I was RPing, and it was fun to do.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I don't know, to like, when somebody's talking to you, to nod or have... This interaction that's not built into the game, but because you're playing with this technology, feels fun to do.
Hands are a big deal. Like, even though you're just pulling a trigger, like seeing your hand open and close.
I could talk about that forever, even outside of VR. Did you ever see Her?
Yeah.
I did.
I mean, the best part is when he's communicating with that little...
I hate that part.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't think that'd be a fun game, like understanding a new language? Like,
Hold on. What is this scene? Describe
Okay,
this
sorry.
Like they have their Nintendo 128 out, holographic technology,
Projecting onto his wall.
and he's a little guy, and he's trying to communicate. And he's like, "Hey, little buddy," I may be getting this a little wrong, and the guy's just like, "I'm assuming this is a PG-rated podcast."
No.
Okay, well,
Rated X.
Okay, well, in that case,
It ranges from G to X. It's a very inconsistent.
okay.
rating.
But he's like, the little guy's like, fuck you, and then he's getting frustrated, but then he's like, well, buddy, fuck you. And then the guy kind of responds to him, and they're kind of realizing that like through this like vulgar language, he can actually start communicating with him and like building like a language. I mean, like not to completely go off course, but again, my weird philosophical brain. I think I love The Witness. I know you love The Witness.
Yeah.
But my problem.
We're all Witness lovers here.
My problem with The Witness, it's like learning Latin. You are learning I feel like the game is about teaching you a language.
It is.
Right.
And you're learning a dead language. There is one puzzle in that game that stands out to me in the town, and it's the broken speaker system. And basically, you rejigger the speaker, and that actually gives you how you rejigger the speaker is how you have to solve the board puzzle. And it's like the one time where I felt like I actually had like, I know there's the randomized puzzles, which is kind of like testing your literacy, like the last 2 puzzles, and if you try to do the big challenge thingy.
Yeah.
But this was the one part where it was like, in a very limited way, I got to say my own sentence in The Witness. And I don't know, like, I used to play a lot of text adventure games. There's a lot of great language puzzles in there because they're based off of language. And I always thought like that her thing was really interesting. But again, just like hand motions and stuff when you take it into VR, when you're waving at people, being able to read those moves. I mean, the Wii, people were saying we could have stuff like that with the waggle, and obviously, ha ha ha. But I think that's a really interesting point. Like, how are we interacting with these systems? Here's the thing. Do you RP in general?
Do I RP in general?
When you play a game that's in a realistic world, are you jumping constantly, or do you strut over? Like,
to be 100% honest with you, it depends on how I'm feeling. There are times where I'm playing a single-player game where I can make my own character, and I just want to be a goof-off. I just want to run around and do the opposite of what I'm told to do. And there are times, depending on the mood I'm in, I'm like, all right, I would really want to get into this world. I will RP like crazy. I'll make sure that what my character is wearing like looks perfect, that everything about them that there's a headcanon going on there.
Yeah.
But it varies, I think that is one of my biggest joys of video games is being able to like manipulate it based on how I feel and having those feelings like not be constant all the time.
Do you think in a game like Job Simulator, which has, like what a 1-sentence plot in the future, there are no jobs, so play this for fun. Do you think the idea of putting in more like humanized experiences that aren't part of the gameplay but like add on to the experience are worthwhile do the people wave back or anything?
No.
Can you see people or anything like that?
I mean, no, but that's kind of what's fun about the RP is they will say like goodbye, or they'll be like, hand me my bill, and so you kind of learn when you can interject these things in a way that would make sense. Do
you think streaming culture has changed that at all? Like how people play with their games?
It has. I don't know if it has.
I think so far streaming culture has only affected like indie games that strive to be weird and strive to give shocking moments for streamers to react to. Mm-hmm. I don't think, like it's VR especially because it's so hard to stream, I don't think at any point they were thinking, what will streamers think of this?
I don't know though, because last week I streamed Trails of Cold Steel, a very long JRPG.
Yeah.
And I pointed out how this character was just staring at this wall like an idiot. Mm-hmm. Like you're like, hey, no, I'm here. I need to deliver this thing to you. And he's just staring at this brick wall. And I kind of made a thing about it. And we talked about it for a few seconds or whatever. Yeah. If I was just playing on my own, probably wouldn't have even registered that. Like the way that you see things when you're presenting it to an audience is different for sure. But like in terms of in a general sense, like how has that affected games? I don't know if I'm qualified to say. But Kyle.
Yeah.
I feel so bad. Let's get back to I Expect You to Die. Is there anything else you want to say about it before moving on?
No, I like it very much. I'd like to play more games like that.
Okay.
Where you stand and solve problems using the items around you in creative ways. Oh, I loved it. Really, really cool.
Are there escape the room games in VR?
I think you could call this an escape the room game.
Okay.
One of the levels is escape the room even.
How much is this?
This was $25 US.
Okay. I think I'm in.
Yeah.
I think I'm in.
It's definitely, that's a VR tax. That's for the time you're playing it, based off other games that you could pay $25 for and play for much, much longer. You know?
Yeah. I mean, everybody's going to arrive at this decision differently, but man, I think that tax is worth it.
Yeah. Because it's an exciting new thing that I've not done before in any game.
Yeah, that feeling, that anxiousness that you felt just looking around frantically, I want that. I'm willing to pay that tax. What else have you been playing? / what do you want to talk about?
The other game I want to talk about is Shantae Half-Genie Hero.
Nice.
Yes, Kyle.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
So Shantae is a weird video game franchise for sure.
Yes.
Started off in development as a Game Boy Color game that I think never was released.
Was released, limited
was?
edition.
Oh, okay.
Sells for lots of money. I had one, don't have it anymore.
What
I believe
happened?
if you put it in the Game Boy Advance, it would unlock some secret stuff as well.
Cool.
But,
What happened to your copy?
I was in college. I'm not really sure.
It's a good answer.
Amazing animated sprites
Yeah.
for dancing.
Speaking of lost Ryan Stevens Game Boy cartridges, I still have your GBA version of Rhythm Heaven.
Oh,
Yep. I'll give it back to you.
sweet.
I don't think that's ever happening.
Rhythm Tengoku?
But yeah, so it's by Way Forward. Just had this weird history of almost coming out on this platform and then not, and then coming out later.
Right.
So it's a strange franchise. It's also strange. It's a strange franchise because, like, Shantae is like, you can't tell if she's sexy or not. It's
Hold
so
on.
weird.
You can't?
Wait a minute.
You
Is that
can't.
the royal you, or is that...
You can't. All of us, everybody listening and watching can't tell if she's sexy or not.
We need to unpack this.
Yeah.
Bomb.
Sure.
What do you mean?
She's like Betty Boop. She's like, is this like, is she supposed to be sexy or is this just what she looks like?
I see. Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely that weird, like, slight awkwardness.
Yeah.
Bare midriff,
Yeah.
hips,
Yeah.
I mean,
ponytail.
Right. But very big head. And also, she's just super jolly. The vibe of the game is just super jolly. You never get any indication from the game itself that she's supposed to be sexy. And so I play it that way.
Are
I
you
just
saying
play
only,
like,
only depressive people can be sexy?
what do you mean by that?
Were you saying does jolly equal not being sexy?
No. I mean like lighthearted. I mean like there's never even a wink that I'm being sexy right now inside of the game itself.
all right. I'm about to throw something at you. I am not throwing this at you as Ben Moore. Just imagine some distant
Okay.
voice is throwing this at you. She's a genie, Kyle.
Yeah.
What, does that explain
Is she a genie?
She's
in
a
a
half
bottle?
genie.
yeah, sure. Does that explain the aesthetic?
Yeah, it kind of does. It's like,
Okay.
okay.
It's like,
of course a
I
half
Dream of
genie's-
Genie is,
Yeah.
almost like where this is coming from.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is you're not sure what the intent behind this character design
Right.
is.
Yeah. What is the intent here?
Is that
But I mean, it's kind of like why
Is she cute?
she's cute. The game openly acknowledges when things are cute. Absolutely.
Because aren't there okay? Wait. To go back to the depressive sort of thing.
Okay.
Not exactly, but aren't there like also kind of sleek-looking, slender pirate ladies?
Yes.
Are they sexy?
Are they sexy? It's the really tough question. Because almost every single female character in the game has the same body type.
is there a universal answer for this though?
I don't know.
I mean, don't you just at the end of the day, don't you just Kyle Bosman have to turn off that PS4 and say to yourself,
You're wondering about artistic intent.
Yeah,
I think
and
is that
so-
if we're not making this a goofy question and an actual question, you're
Right.
wondering if there is artistic intent, if this character is supposed to be in some ways titillating.
Right, and so I think it makes it easy to ignore the Shantae. You know, like me just hopping into the franchise now after skipping a bunch of... The last one I played was the one on 3DS.
Is it Pirate's Curse or before
One
that?
before Pirate's Curse, I guess. Whatever. So, you know, it's an easy one to skip. You can look at Shantae and say, is this the game for creeps? You can easily like look at it like that. I think it's easy to dismiss the game based off how its characters look. And so that's why it's like, it's hopping in, you have all those things against it, I feel like.
I don't think so. I don't buy that.
You don't buy that like somebody could dismiss it easily because of how its characters look?
I think people could, but
Yeah.
I don't. That's. We were talking about that cheeriness. I guess I would never look at that game and think on my own or think that somebody else would say this is a game for creeps, because as you were saying, there's not really like. In a lot of Japanese role-playing games, for instance,
Sure.
there are parts where I groan.
Yeah.
Because it's like
There are parts for creeps.
this is the part where the characters talk about boobs and it sucks because
Yeah.
it's not funny, it's not witty, it's just like this thing that is thrown in there.
Yeah.
I mean, Cindy.
Who is Cindy? Oh, from Final Fantasy 15.
That's
Yeah,
actually
so
a slightly different thing. But
Cindy's for creeps. I
Yeah.
don't want to say that it's bad to be a creep. We're all creeps at some points in our lives. We're all creeping. I don't want to be dismissive of a person because you enjoy creepy stuff. We just got to acknowledge creepy stuff when it's being creepy.
But there aren't those groan-inducing parts from what I've played of Half-Genie Hero.
Right.
Like, it has a consistently upbeat, enthusiastic vibe that I never questioned.
Yeah. And so, that's what I saw playing the game. Is like, oh, this is just a jolly game. This is not for creeps at all. Maybe.
I think you are also, you grew up in America, right?
I did.
And you are equating sexiness with creepiness because we are a place
this is a good
where
point.
you can show violence, but you can't show a breast.
Yeah.
Why does one necessarily have to equate with the other?
You can absolutely be sexy without being creepy. There's some stuff where you just like.
Is this
you're
the whole
being a
thing?
creep.
How it's like for every 100 creepy people, only one is a woman,
Whoa. No, there are lots of creepy women.
but there are far less proportionally.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
This is what I mean. Everybody's got a creepy side. Bloodworth's got a creepy side. Everybody's got that.
But I'm also thinking if you can be like salacious in rendering something. Like obviously there's always those like bad 8-bit porn games, hot slots or whatever. But that's
Never
not
heard of hot slots.
No, like the unlicensed stuff.
Oh, okay.
But I'm thinking like.
So that's creepy, right? That's just like the creepy.
I don't even think it gets to creepy. It's just like lurid. It's like because it's not even effective.
Right.
Like creepy
Right.
has like some sort of subtle shade to it.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of like other like 8-bit renditions, and I don't mean 8-bit like Paul Robertson level of stuff where it's like incredibly detailed or something like that. I'm thinking like legitimate like 8-bit stuff or like whatever. It's like what's the bad guy in Battletoads? What's her name?
Oh yeah.
She kind of had like an
the
S&M.
Dark Queen, I think
She had
is
like an
all it is,
S&M
yeah.
thing going, but like even there, I think she even had like pointy Madonna bra or something like that. It's like no, not really. It's like maybe it's evoking sexy without actually being sexy. I think that's maybe the best you can do.
Okay.
Given the artistic limitations. So
she's
I
on
would
the
say
box art too.
So we're talking about you skipping other Shantae games, right? And
I'm talking about a general person, like
Sure.
coming into Half-Genie Hero saying like,
Right.
"Oh man, I don't think that's for me."
But this question of creepiness, sexiness, you've now played the game.
Yeah.
Where do you fall? Are you glad that you gave it a chance?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely, yeah.
All right. Why? What is it about this
Right.
game?
We should talk about the actual game
Yeah.
itself. When we talked about Mario 64 earlier, how there's a reason to go back to levels.
Yeah.
This has that, and I always dig that big time. Obviously, it's not like if that's not there, I'm going to dismiss your game completely. But yeah, if that's there, I'm always into it. I love the idea that this level is a breathing space, that it has a purpose for all of these things. And so let's say you get an ability to turn into a monkey. You can go back to the first level and meet this person who is very high up who says, hey, I have a diner down there that's burning. Please kill 25 enemies, and so I can move back into my diner or whatever. It's got moments like that I like big time. So that's cool. That's something I'm way into. It's apparently better in other games. And so when I was streaming it and saying I really like this, everybody's like, Pirate's Curse is way better, dude. You're wasting your time. I really like the aesthetic of the game. I like how everything just looks straight up. It's got a sort of 2D sprites in a 3D world element to it, but the way the 2D sprites move, to me, it almost looks like 3D models, and that the way that it can rotate well, as opposed to the way that some 2D sprites are like flash animated like puppets. I hate that so much. The idea of like an arm moving on a joint looks disgusting to me in a game where it's just like I'm playing like a little 2D element that somebody just puppeteered in Flash. It bugs me so much.
Oh yeah,
You want that
saying.
hand-drawn element to it?
Yes.
One of the things that I totally adore about Half-Genie Hero, and I'm not very familiar with the other Shantae games. This is pretty much the first one that I've put any serious time into. Big 2D boss battles.
Yeah.
Something that I love about Metal Slug is when you run into a boss, that thing is taking up the whole screen. You have that moment where you say, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens in Half-Genie Hero. Like, you have this giant mermaid just crash through a deck, and you have to climb up all over the place to try to damage it. That sense of scale and spectacle is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things I'm not way into are, I think that sometimes actually every single power-up is just kind of dropped on you. It's like, oh, I can turn into a monkey now.
Right.
No explanation of why that chest was in that, why that ability. No reaction to that. I'm like, oh, I can turn into a monkey. No explanation other than you could do that in previous Shantae games. So that's kind of weird. Sometimes you find them in the genie realm. You take a little short trip into the genie realm to get this power to turn into a monkey. It's like, you just have that now.
How do you feel about the sub-weapons that you get? Like throwing the fireballs, that sort of stuff.
They're cool. They're completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
You don't need any of them to finish the game. But yeah, it's a fun. I like the upgrade system. If you put more money into it, your fire up gets better, your lightning gets better, your bubble gets better, things like that.
So when you say that they're completely unnecessary, did you ever have sections where you're like, oh, I guess I could be using this thing?
No. There's the rotating thing. I guess you would think of like the Leaf Man power in Mega Man, where just the thing will rotate around you, and you upgrade that. Eventually, you get swords that just spin around you. I really like those swords, and I would use them consistently.
Because something that I appreciate about Castlevania levels is like the old school, not Symphony of the Night. I guess it's there as well, but when you would find a sub-weapon in a candle and you'd be like, oh, this is either really good right now, or I know that there's a boss fight coming up where this is really important. And so the way that they're placed throughout the levels.
Every once in a while, don't you think there was one to like mess you up?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm not. Yes,
There's like some,
absolutely.
there's
I'm
some
not saying-
troll candles.
Yes.
Okay.
But just the
candles.
way that they're placed as you're kind of going through and exploring, you run into those situations where you're thinking about it in that moment as you're going through. And something that bothered me about Shantae, I guess, is like you kind of decide what you want in town and then you just kind of go off and do the level.
Yeah.
And there'd be moments where I just wasn't thinking about it.
Yeah. Also, the game's progression, the order of the game, and the things that happen in the game, they might be because this was a Kickstarted game and they just kind of like had stretch goals, and whatever goals they met would just be added into the game. It's just kind of, it's like watching a kids cartoon where there's just like, oh, this is a thing that's happening in this next part of the game. Just like, oh, this enemy's here, done that thing, and then you just put a little end to that story, and then it doesn't matter for the rest of the game. Things like that, where it's just like, oh, this is popping up now, and you don't really get to what the whole story was about until the end, and then the whole story is really inconclusive, just in terms of nothing progresses. Shantae ends the game the same place she started it, and you know that bothers me big time in any story.
Sure. Besides Half-Genie Hero and Expect You to Die,
Yeah.
before the show started, you told me that you had an update.
I got an update, everyone.
Ooh.
I'm really excited about
So Ryan,
this.
I'll fill you in on what's going on.
Do tell.
So I got a PlayStation 4 Pro.
Oh, okay.
And I was explaining what that was to my parents, and my dad's on the phone, and he says, "Oh, so what are you doing with your PlayStation 4?"
Oh no.
And I said, "Oh, I'm probably just gonna take it to GameStop and get like some credit for it." And he goes, "Oh, how much are they gonna give you?" And I said, "Dad, do you want my PlayStation 4?" And he goes, "Well, I don't know. I mean, if they were going to give you money, just trade it in." I'm like, "Dad, if you want it, I will gladly give you my PlayStation 4. I've been dying for you to play video games." He used to play Jet Mode. It was the only game he ever played on my PlayStation 1. He played Jet Mode. He got super good at it. I could never beat him.
That is sick, by the way.
Yeah.
Jet Moto specifically.
And it's a really hard game, actually.
is.
I don't know how he got so good at it. And he's never played games since. I would play like Madden and Tiger Woods with him in high school, and he would beat me at those two, but he would never like play them. He never liked to play those games on his own. So yeah, it's been a huge down period, and I was like so excited to get him a PlayStation 4. So I knew I'm giving him this thing for Christmas, and I had to like figure out which games to give him because he wanted another Jet Moto, and I said they don't make those anymore.
Never mind. Continue your story.
Okay, so the games I got him, based off recommendations from the comments, from Twitter, and from just he wants Jet Moto. I gotta get him Riptide GP2.
There you go. That's what I was.
that's
That's what that
You got
was.
him
Yeah,
2
yeah.
and not Renegade?
Yep, I think Riptide GP2 is a better game to play. I like it more.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not fair. It's not fair to that team who worked so hard on Renegade and added so many things. But yeah, I just still like the Riptide GP2. Anyway, that's Drive Club, because he said he wanted a racing game.
Nice.
That's not like arcade style. He wants it on the tracks. And Jackbox Party Pack 3. That's mostly for the family. We played that a ton. Everybody had a great time playing that game. They liked the trivia one. They hated the one where you had to lie.
Fibbage.
They have like it's weird. It's
I usually hate those kind of games.
It's
anyways,
more like the werewolf game.
Oh.
It's really interesting in its design. Actually,
it's not Fibbage.
It's not Fibbage. Basically, we all have phones. So there's 4 of us here. So it would give us 3 of us. It would say like, how many Disney movies have you seen in the last year? And then to you, Ryan, you're the liar. It sends to your phone, hey, you're the liar right now. Just put up a certain number of fingers. Go. And so it goes 3, 2, 1. Bloodworth, Ben, and I put up how many Disney movies we've seen. And then the liar puts up a random number. Okay? And then we all look at our hands. And Ryan put up 5 fingers. It's like, Ryan, you've seen 5 Disney movies this year? No way. And then we would talk to him about it.
It puts you on the spot.
It puts you on the spot. And then you're like, yeah, let me list them off. I see Ben with 2. Ben, you've only seen 2. And then so you try to cast suspicions onto Ben because you're the liar. And we're all trying to figure out who the liar is. My family could not get it.
Is it always
that did not register.
numbers?
No, sometimes it's make an expression. I really love that.
So it was understanding the rules, not because the Bosman family is just exceptionally honest.
Exceptionally dishonest. Like some people did not understand the rules of the game, so thought it was on everybody to trick everybody. And so they would.
So everybody was lying.
They would lie when it said like how many Disney movies. It's like somebody would stick up 10. And it's like, no, that's not the point of this game. It was really hard to get that one across.
Yeah.
The trivia ones are much simpler to get. That was really fun. Batman. I got Batman because of the crowd play. Because we could all make decisions for Batman. The server was down. The one moment I convinced everybody to sit down on couches.
Telltale Batman? Or?
Yeah, and play Batman.
Yeah.
And then the stupid Telltale servers were down. It sucked so much. It was frustrating. So I still don't know what crowd play is like with Batman. So my dad loves Riptide GP2. He loves it.
Nice.
He got way into it. It felt like Jet Moto. He loves riding those waves. He had a really good time with the game. Never even started Drive Club. I'm like, Dad, do you want to start Drive Club? He's like, I kind of like the other one. He never understood the name of the game, Riptide GP2. He never calls it that. He's like, I like the one. I like play that game. And I'm like, all right, Dad, I'll put it on.
Him playing Riptide.
Yeah.
Did the controls, moving through that? Okay, so it took
absolutely took a while.
So the thing that I run into sometimes when I'm trying to introduce video games to people, when they're interested, is just... I realize, and it's a problem with me, that there are certain things that are difficult for them that I've just been doing for so long that I don't even know how to explain. Like having a left analog stick and a right analog stick, having one controller person, one controller camera. That's really hard for a lot of people, but I don't know how to make it easier for them other than you just got to get used to it.
And so, Ben, the story doesn't end there. It doesn't end with Riptide GP2, which my dad loves. I don't know if he's still playing it, but I know he had a really good time with it. My mom asked for a puzzle game. She says, I like to solve puzzles. What have you got? And I said, I like The Witness. I think The Witness is really good.
No.
I'll download it for you. And she said, okay, give me The Witness. And so I downloaded The Witness. My uncle played it a bunch, and my cousin's boyfriend did. They played it together. My mom didn't really pay any attention to it. I'm talking to my parents last Sunday on the phone, and my mom says, hey, you got me. I love The Witness.
Nice.
I'm shocked. I'm floored. I said,
floored.
You tried The Witness? And she says, yeah, I'm hooked on it. I can't stop playing. Whenever your dad leaves the house, I start up The Witness. She's been playing The Witness hardcore. My mom's never touched analog sticks in her life. You gotta realize that. She's never held a controller with analog sticks. She's trudging through The Witness despite that fact.
This is amazing.
Yeah. And she's like frustrated by something. She's telling me like, oh, I'm really frustrated with the windmill. I went downstairs and watched a whole video downstairs. I'm like, Mom, you got to the bottom of the windmill? She's like, yeah, I lit up one of the lasers that goes to the mountain. I don't know what that's about. It's like, that's a good thing. You did a good thing, Mom. She's at the beach and she just likes to explore things. Yeah. And I'm like, Mom, I can't believe this. I can't believe you're moving around with 2 analog sticks. She said, yeah, I used to have to do one at a time, but now I'm finally to where I can move both at the same time. And I'm like, I'm floored by this. And she's talking about the things she likes. She likes the click of solving a puzzle. She likes when something snaps open, something moves. She solved like the birds puzzle, the sounds puzzle. I'm so impressed by all these things. And she can't stop playing. She's hooked on it. She says she likes how detailed it is, which is kind of funny because I think we look at it as a pretty like simply detailed game. But she loved that when she went through the trees part, that at the end she saw what some artist was working on, and she says like, does that matter? And it's like, yeah, that's kind of what the game's about. You'll pick up more about what the game's about as you play. but she was mad there was no reward at the end of that, just paintings that some artist left. She says that she loves that she doesn't have to kill anything, that she just gets to go around an island and be on that island. And
has she found any of the environmental puzzles yet?
Yeah.
Cool.
She found those like pretty quickly, faster than I did actually, which I think is kind of interesting. Because, I think I came into it thinking that all puzzles will be on these boxes. Mm-hmm. And my mom's just trying stuff out in the wild, which is pretty cool.
When she gets frustrated and she tells you about these moments where she is frustrated, how does she deal with that? Does she move on to something else? Does she stick with it? Does she take a break?
I definitely had to explain you're supposed to move on.
Okay.
You're supposed to come back later with more knowledge. And so that made sense to her because she was like struggling with Tetris pieces. And I'm like, no. You'll go to a part where those Tetris pieces will be easy and then it works up and works up. Just don't bother with those right now.
And so
I love those. I really do like them.
She responded to that well. She took that advice to heart.
Yeah. She's like, oh, okay, I guess I'll just go to a different part of the island then. And I'm like, yeah, that's what the whole game's about. Yeah.
Did you watch her play a lot of this?
No.
Okay.
I had no idea she would ever say, hey, can you hook up the PS to my dad? Like, hook it up for me, get me going, get me started on this game.
Yeah. Something that I've learned with these experiences where new people are playing video games that I really find fascinating is they don't have sort of the ingrained habits that we have.
Yeah.
Like sometimes when I play The Witness, I get really stubborn. It's like, no, I'm just going to stay here until I finish it. Or just like not observing things. Like there are some times where I'm playing games and my girlfriend will be like, why are you doing that? It's like, well, this is just how you play video games, where you have that very regressive, like this is just how you do it sort of thing. And I love watching new people play where they don't have that.
Yeah.
Where they don't get frustrated in the same way, where they don't have the same expectations. Are you getting kind of that sense from your mother?
No, she was very frustrated.
Okay.
I think she spent almost a whole Sunday, like 3 hours at the beach, not knowing what to do.
And she was mad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, she wasn't mad. She was frustrated. And I mean, she was definitely like not leaving. She was definitely like bumping her head against things.
Has there been any talk or hint of looking up answers at
I told
all?
her that because she's got a big trip coming in February, and so I said, honestly, I don't think you're gonna beat it in February without looking things up. Don't be ashamed to look things up. I looked things up. I told her at some point the game to me was about exploring the island more than it was about solving the puzzles in particular. And I said, yeah, just look up a walkthrough.
What did she say to that?
She said, okay.
She accepted that idea.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I didn't have that option.
Blood was reviewing the game, so he had to solve every puzzle. Oh God! Sometimes they get to a point where they're annoying though.
There was stuff like after I got through like the main story or what the main crux of the game that that's when I kind of went back after it had come out and started sweeping up the pieces because I wanted to get through everything and find all the little hidden stuff. And there was like a couple of things like the one on the ship. The sound puzzle on the ship, like I had to look that up. And even then, it didn't really click for me.
I think the pillar ones are annoying. It's not.
Oh, I like the pillar ones.
It's not a matter of knowing how to solve it. It's just a matter of like twisting it around a certain amount of times.
Oh, yeah. Some of the more advanced ones are kind of a pain, for sure.
I hope that this is the start of more. What is Kyle Bosman's mom playing?
But the thing is, what do I give her after The Witness?
I've got one.
What do you got?
Talos Principle.
Yeah. Yeah, she might be into it.
Don't you have to jump in that one?
That's the thing. The Witness eventually gets to some timing-heavy puzzles.
It really does.
I'm really scared of the
don't have to
simulator
jump.
puzzles. Yeah.
There's no jump in The Witness. You have to jump in Talos Principle.
There is a jump, but I don't think you ever have to use it.
There is a jump?
Yeah. She asked me. She's like, I'm jumping around a lot. Do I ever have to use it?
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I didn't remember it either. I'm like, no, I think they...
Okay.
Just when you're exploring in 3D, they just feel like they got to let you jump. I feel like that's just an expectation on our end of like, yeah, I got to be able to jump. Come on. I'm playing a video game.
I love this so much.
Yeah.
I want to have this experience with my family.
I don't think my dad is still playing Riptide GP2, but I think my mom is very consistently playing The Witness right now. Maybe the PS4 is hers at this point.
Okay. I want a impression of Drive Club from her dad.
I don't think it's coming. Maybe I'll tell him.
If they ever visit you,
yeah,
we got to have a brief little segment.
Oh my God! All the Bosmans? Would it be called
Bosmans.
Boss Rush?
It would be called Boss Rush.
Nice.
Well done, Ryan.
Daniel Bloodworth, all the way at the end. You've been a very busy guy recently. You've expressed that you don't have as much time to play video games as you would like. Are you still feeling that pinch?
A bit. I guess like right after Christmas, especially like there's just a lot going on, and going out to the Switch event and everything. I played a lot of video games at that. But I've basically been focused on, especially the past couple of days, Final Fantasy 15. Been playing that primarily.
Nice.
And it's weird because it's like one of those games where it's like I'm totally into kind of the just being relaxed and going around and doing stuff, but at the same time, like I think about things like a lot of these things I'm doing are not really very good. Like a lot of the side quests, you're just like, go to this thing and pick that up. I'm like, oh, okay, you know. And I'm also having the same. It has the same problem that The Witcher 3 has with side quests versus main story, in that when you do side quests, you get over leveled for main story. And so then I'll go into like a boss fight, and it's like over faster than some of the other like normal fights that I've done. And you know, and the little button will pop up, which I still don't understand why the summon button pops up when it does. And it's like, oh, I can summon now, and then the thing's dead. But so it's weird in that sense that it's like I've been enjoying just, you know, going around the world and hopping in the car or hopping on a chocobo or whatever. But at the same time, it's like, this guy just always sends me here to get a dog tag. This guy just always sends me to do, like, it's just kind of sort of this repetitive thing. And like, there are characters that have a certain reason for being in the world, but they're not fleshed out really in any way. There's not really any story to each of these tasks.
Wait for the patch.
I don't know.
How do you feel about the combat?
Combat took me a long time to really even understand what the heck was going on. I think there's definitely a certain rhythm to it. I'm not super into it. I don't know. It's strange because like certain things like ether, I'm never going to use an ether.
Right.
Like a lot of the buff and debuff things I don't really see a lot of need for. But again, part of that is being sort of 10 levels above where I should be for some of these tasks.
So this is a problem that is totally true in Final Fantasy 15, and it's true in other games as well. And since you're kind of running into that situation where you're doing this side stuff and you're over levels for the main stuff, do you ever question, like, maybe I should just go on with the main stuff since I'm not?
Oh, I've definitely had that question. Kind of my approach, you know, has been is like, okay, whatever the main level is, I'll do all the side quests before that level, and I feel like I go through like a whole day and not actually like progress the story at all because I'm just running around on the map. But it's not, you know, at times though, like that sort of does pay off a little bit because I'll be somewhere and I'll see a trail on the map and I'm like, where's that trail go? It's like, oh, here's a dungeon and here's one of the tombs, you know, and I do really like the vibe of the dungeons and stuff. It's weird though, like in terms of the environment, because I feel like, I think I said this like a long time ago when we were talking about previews, is like the world still doesn't feel that necessarily believable to me. Like the whole, like, it still feels like a bunch of chunky polygons. Whereas I think like that's one of the reasons that I really like resonated with Witcher 3 so much was because I looked at that world and like, this feels like real places that I've been, you know, like those rocks and those hills and the way that the vegetation is laid out, like it all feels like very believable to me.
So what?
Whereas like with like, the way, you know, like going through a cave or something sometimes in Final Fantasy is just like, okay, this is like this chunk of polygons that sort of has like a rock texture on it, but I don't. And it's weird because like I could analyze any texture in any game and say the same thing, but it's just how the impression of it comes across.
So what do you think it is about the placement of those things in those two different games that leads you to that conclusion?
I don't know. I guess it's just maybe just something about like there's almost a sense that like, you know, maybe one person was like actually really looking at like how things look in the real world rather than just making something and throwing it. I don't know.
Oh, clearly you didn't see their blog post about that rock. Didn't they spend like a week on one rock in Final Fantasy 15?
Did they really?
Yeah, that was like something that everybody makes fun of them for.
I don't remember this blog post, so I can't comment. But
sure,
but I guess things don't really look like. I guess part of it is like things don't really look weathered. You know, I think that's the thing. Like a rock, you know, like it's gonna look a different way based on where it, like a rock that's from like a lava flow. It's going to look different than a rock that's been like in a river, like blown on by wind, or So that I guess that's it. There's not a lot of smooth surfaces. Like everything kind of has these like weird irregular bumps that just kind of look randomly generated in a way.
Okay.
If real quick, when you talked about doing all the side quests and over leveling, I know most people in the world don't like what was it, like Oblivion and Dead Island would do, the auto leveling of the enemies. Right.
And I feel especially in Final Fantasy.
Like, kind of war. Did anyone ever play Lunar, the Silver Star Saga?
I haven't actually played
Sega CD. So you could.
I didn't play it on Sega CD.
You could grind as much as you wanted. You could totally rock a level. And they never did the auto leveling thing. What they did do is they'd look at the levels of your characters, and at least for the bosses, which are kind of, the little stopgaps for, JRPGs more linear in general, to going to the next area. I haven't played Final Fantasy 15, and I know it has a chapter-based system, but also open world, but I'm assuming there are still progression level stops. What they would do for the bosses in Lunar they'd look at your character, and all of the boss's stats would be driven off of that. So it was doing that thing, but only for the boss, who is supposed to be a challenge.
Right.
So you could still raffle stomp all of the enemies up to the boss if you wanted to. But then when you'd get to the boss, it was the actual challenge that was meant to be. Obviously, you could have more skills and abilities, but on a raw statistic level, it's going to be a fair fight, so
That's
to speak.
interesting.
And I haven't really seen this revisited in like a lot of things.
I really like how Pokemon does it, where let's say you're at a certain level. If the enemy you fight is the same level as you get this baseline experience. If you are dramatically lower than that level, you get more experience from fighting it. And if you're higher than it, you get less experience. And I think you can kind of rationalize that in real world. Let's say you are super strong and you beat a little weakling. You're not going to get that much experience from...
Well, isn't that like the Earthbound system? Like
battle.
the enemies would run away from you, and they'd give you a couple, or Paper Mario, they give you a little bit of XP, and eventually they'd give you nothing.
I think that's fair.
I don't think Earthbound changes the amount of XP, but the thing with Witcher and Final Fantasy is you get huge chunks of XP just from completing quests, and so that's why it's the issue is that if you do like I'm doing, like if you do the side quests that are under the level of the main quest, then eventually like you're way over the level because you're doing all of these quests and you're getting thousands of experience from each one.
So maybe those should be variable as well. That'd be interesting.
But you want to see what the boss has to offer, right? You don't want it to be that cake roll. I read God, what was the game called? It was kind of like XCOM but medieval. I think Double Fine made it.
Whoa. Oh, Massive Chalice?
Massive Chalice. I heard most people, I did not see it to the end. I heard the last level, like a lot of games have like, they always try to do that one little extra thing at the end. I heard in the last level, unfortunately, most people would be, or if you're good enough at the game, you're probably going to be good at the game if you make it to the end, and you are actually overpowered for the final confrontation. However, I think the developers wanted you to not be over-leveled, and they actually wanted you to die, and the game's all based on generational stuff. This is probably a spoiler for this game that no one's ever going to play, though. And I guess what would happen is it would kind of unlock your whole genealogy and your whole, like, all your old parties at your parties or players would come back, and, like, the idea was, like, the whole eon of your family, like, generations upon generations of your family were now combining, like, through time to take on this, like, evil or whatever. It's kind of a cool idea. I don't know. But you wanted to see that, but if you're overpowered, you're not going to see that.
I think that's fine. I like the idea of this enemy is this strong. In this world, this is where that level is. Like, it's, to me, unfair. Played through Final Fantasy VIII. It's the only Final Fantasy game where I ever got anyone up to level 99. Because I thought, like, man, these enemies are hard. I got to level up. Didn't know they're leveling with me. Ultimecia took, like, 6 hours to beat. And, like, that's... not fair.
It's a little anticlimactic because the idea is you're supposed to be getting bigger and stronger. Right. I felt like some mid-level, not the dungeon crawlers, but I don't know if anyone ever played like the mid-level Ultimas, like Ultima 5, 6, 7. No, there was an idea where you leveled up. It was basically you getting a small push. And the enemies were always the same enemies. There's no real bosses or anything. There's the idea that you're getting slightly stronger. Gear was more important. I mean, that's another question. Should it be gear? Should it be leveling? Like, what's the balance for making, like, a good challenge? But it was kind of good. You'd level up and you'd feel slightly more stronger, a little more capable, but, like, the world was set as it was.
Yeah.
There was no artificial level. Enemies didn't have levels or anything like that. A gargoyle was a gargoyle was a gargoyle,
I think with Final Fantasy 15 specifically, though, there are problems that extend well beyond just like you being over leveled, because it's so easy to not die.
Right.
When your initial health bar goes, you're kind of in this danger state.
Yeah.
That it's so easy to pop a recovery item, and it's so hard to, and your like friends can come over and pick you up,
and they can res you. Yeah.
Yeah, you feel like you have so many different safety nets that getting to everybody is dead, past the danger level at 0 HP, game over, is so hard to do that, like, unless we're talking about like being very underleveled at the most difficult stuff in the game, it just doesn't happen. The other thing is because you have so much room to move around in, and you can be so mobile, much more mobile than a lot of the enemies, it's very easy to just be like, all right, I'm in a bad spot, I'm going to warp like 200 yards away, and I'll be fine. And so yeah, I think just mechanically there are some problems with the difficulty.
Well, then some of the like design wise of the camera and the environments don't work together. You know, like I was going up to this the glade or whatever, that there's a bunch of horses in like a forest, and like there's just these trees everywhere, like in between you and the horse. Like I can't ever see what I'm doing.
There are horses in this game?
The spiricorns, yeah.
Are they horses?
I mean, they're basically horses with giant horns
They're-
on them. Yeah.
They're Final Fantasy. They're fantastical horse-like things.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, you don't need horses in a world where there are chocobos.
And cars.
In fact, if there are horses, why would you ever?
They're not horses that people are riding around.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
nobody's
right.
riding around on these.
Thank goodness.
They just you
Okay.
just fight them, and it's just. But it's weird because like this thing's about to rush out of the tree, but I can't ever see it, no matter what kind of camera angle.
That's what being in a forest is like, Blood.
Look, son, there's a
You
horse.
can't just
Let's go
see through a
fight it.
forest.
It depends.
That's an accurate depiction of what a forest is like. If you had to fight a horse in a forest, you're gonna die.
Yeah, it's just, it's. Well, the thing is that's the thing. It's like you can't see yourself.
Okay. All right.
That's kind of
yeah.
The forest through the trees.
So, but it's weird. I feel like there's like a lot of weird picky things I'm saying right now, but it's.
No, I think
Blood, I see
a
you
lot of
playing
what you're saying is
late.
valid.
I see you online super late playing this game.
Oh yeah.
Blood, I don't know when you sleep. Like I don't know when you sleep. I don't. This is not an attack or anything, but like I will see messages from you very, very late at night, and I just don't. You always seem available, which is great from a work perspective, but sometimes I'm worried. I'm like, man, I hope he's getting enough sleep. I mean that genuinely. Yeah. I want to talk just really quick, going back to the combat
Sure.
of Final Fantasy 15, and something that I struggled with when I was reviewing it. Like I said, I think there are mechanical problems with the difficulty. I think it's a little bit too forgiving in some spots, but I don't always need combat to be difficult. You know, in Witcher 3, I think it falls into that. Like I never struggled killing things in The Witcher 3. It was relatively simple for me to get through fights. But there are other games, like some strategy role-playing games, or even other JRPGs, where I relish the challenge, and I want it to be tough, and I want it to kick my butt. The same thing with Platinum Games. What I loved about Final Fantasy 15 is the way that the combat flowed together, warping all over the place, doing team attacks with my friends, how just fantastical magic was. Like, I was having such a good time, and it felt so different that it not being difficult didn't ping me as like, oh man, this sucks. Like, it wasn't bringing down my
It was
adrenaline
engaging.
in the game. Yeah, exactly. And Yakuza is the same way, where a lot of these fights, you know, you can be very sloppy. Like, you don't have to master blocking or dodging. Like, you can just kind of get in there and pummel dudes, and that's still fun, you know. And I think that's okay. Do you guys agree with that, or do you think there should be?
I definitely have those moments where like I like the rhythm of a weapon or something like the shield. Like I like the way that bash feels. But I think sloppy is kind of an adequate word at times, because I never feel like I can be all that precise, like with which enemy I'm attacking, or like whether I'm attacking it from behind. It's just kind of like, all right, I'm gonna hold the button and move the analog stick and hope it kind of gets to what I'm trying to do, you know. And then once I get, you know, my meter up, pulling my friends to like actually like do something very intentional.
How do you like the crew? Do you like the guys that you're adventuring with?
Yeah, it's this weird thing where like they grow on you, of course. You know, you get used to them being around. I do feel like they're always kind of one note. Like they always express things kind of the same way. They always that personality is pretty even, no matter what's going on. And so in a way, like I don't feel like I'm going through. I don't necessarily feel like I'm going through like this drama or this story or this adventure with these guys so much as like I'm playing a video game with these guys. We're hanging out. Nothing's really a big deal. You know, it's like anything. There's that big thing. All right, let's beat that up. Like, okay. Like, it's very, very rare that anything like actually feels like it has a lot of weight.
Got to play to the end. They're like
But
Neil.
So at the last scene, you take off your headset in game and you're actually sitting on the couch with them. In Final Fantasy 15.
I'd be so mad. It pulls out. Yeah, just like, oh, that was a fun adventure.
But I think part of that vibe is where it's like,
can you believe that?
Why I end up doing all of these side quests and stuff that I know are never going to matter, you know, because it's, you know, like just the music when you make camp, you know, it's like, yeah, no, we're hanging out. This is fun.
Mm-hmm.
What else you got besides big old Final Fantasy 15?
That's basically, other than the Switch event, is about it recently. The other thing I guess I can bring up, which I've been playing for a long time, but in short bursts because I'm streaming Earthbound. And first time playing through Earthbound. The chat tells me I'm about 2/3 of the way through.
Nice.
And that game, it's brilliant. Like to me, it's just as fun now as it must have been when it first came out. Like it's so funny. It's so surprising. It keeps throwing these curveballs at you. A lot of the stuff they've done in the combat, it's like, why weren't more people doing this? Like we talked about, you know, when you get over leveled, like enemies just start running away from you, or like even when you just beat the boss of a dungeon, then the enemies will run away from you after you've beaten the boss.
Respect.
Yeah, and you can just run up behind a guy, and if he's low enough level, you don't have to go through the fight animations. You just here's some experience.
Cool.
Do you like when you run out of life and your life numbers are coming down? Because
it's a really crazy
that kind of
idea,
mirrors what you were just saying about Final Fantasy, were you saying it where you can eat the restorative item? There's a lot of period, but it works pretty well in Earthbound. But again, that's like kind of menu based with a real time.
Earthbound is weird because like there's like text speed is something that like I just feel like here's a comfortable text speed for me to read, but everyone's telling me like you got to put text speed on the fastest because now you're getting to hard fights, because you got to mash through that stuff to be able to heal somebody in time before they die. That counter system is really interesting, but yeah, just all the characters. There's so many things I just didn't, because I've been aware of Earthbound all this time, of course, but I didn't realize how much there was to it and how many different areas. And I keep coming to like new enemies I've never seen before that are just super weird.
So talking outside of the mechanics, talking about these curveballs that you see, talking about how the humor in the game, what is it specifically? What is it that Earthbound does that makes it so special and distinct?
I think it's just any time that you feel that something is like really bizarre, then something else will come up that's even more bizarre. It's like here's a cult of people that are like worshiping the color blue or whatever, and then a little bit later you'll end up in like some strange like alternate reality dimension, and then you're flying UFO, and like there's just one thing after another. It's like you need to go, and a lot of it's just like quirky stuff, like you're fighting a battle and then Ness won't attack because he's feeling homesick, so you have to go to a phone and call your mom.
Cool. That's a cool status effect.
I think you kind of touched on it with the calling home, but it's throwing all of these weird things at you, these crazy enemies. It has this very zany tone to it, but does it still feel like a world? Does it still feel like does it go beyond just being weird for the sake of being weird?
In a weird way, it does. Yeah, and then the music is all super good. It's another thing, like I'm blown away by how many battle tracks there are, because that's something that typically like, okay, this game has that battle track and then a boss track or two.
As a music lover, have you picked up on the sampling of the Beatles? that infamously. I honestly can't hear it. I've heard them side by side, and I still I'm like, what? But like supposedly they sampled like a bunch of Beatles songs.
There's definitely a lot of things that are meant to sound different ways, you know. And then there's like there's a band that you have to help multiple times to progress the story called the Runaway Five, and then when they perform on stage, there's like 6 of them, and like what where does this other guy come from? But yeah, stuff like there's a town like infested with zombies. There's just all this weird stuff, and it's like just crazy enemy designs. Like, do you come across like I think there was like a coffee cup attacks you. You know? There's like a coffee cup and a vinyl record and something else, and then you go into a pyramid and the hieroglyphs actually attack you. It's just the creativity's kind of off the charts.
Have you felt the need to grind at all, or are you able to kind of get through it pretty naturally without having to go out of your way?
There's a little bit of grinding here and there.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had to do too much of that. I will say that this game, when it released, it shipped with the player's guide for a reason. There are definitely times where without chat I would have no idea what's going on. There's like all of these strange items that you pick up, and with a limited inventory, I have no idea whether this is worth anything or if I should put this in storage. This strange system where if you have condiments, there's pepper and ketchup packets and stuff like that, and you eat a food and then it'll automatically put the condiment on it, and it might be good or bad, but it's just you don't have a choice. And I'm I think I'm just gonna skip the condiments for now.
Having gotten pretty far in Earthbound and obviously going to finish it, do you feel inspired to go and play Mother 1 or
Oh yeah, I definitely am gonna. I've heard the Mother 1 doesn't have quite as much charm, but I'm definitely gonna go back and play that, and then hopefully, by the time I've gotten through both of them, Nintendo will have gotten around to announcing Mother 3 coming out here. But it's a thing that people are always expecting and never happening, right?
Happening E3.
Blood, I got good news and bad news.
Mm-hmm.
The good news is that I for one am just so happy that you're enjoying Earthbound. But I've got some bad news as well. You said
Every time.
the
condiment.
It's not a word, I suppose. It's a forbidden title. You sprung it upon us. We are now caught in a frame trap. Do you know what that was? Do you know what the forbidden title was?
I guess it's Mother, but
Mother 3.
Oh, Mother 3.
And the demons of the frame trap realm have...
How hard it would it have been to go through one podcast without saying Mother 3?
It would have been super easy. I thought,
Except I'm playing Earthbound.
I had no idea that
and not much else, so it's time to talk about it.
It was extremely unlikely, but the demons of the frame trap realm have given me a pretty tough caught in a frame trap this episode. They were a little vicious. The name of today's game is called Hit That Date.
Hit that date.
Hit that date.
Okay.
So what I'm gonna do, I have 5 items on this list. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They will either be a Nintendo console
Mm-hmm.
or a Nintendo video game.
Okay.
You get 1 point if you get the correct year of when this released.
Oh, this is fun.
You get an extra point if you also get the month.
Mm-hmm.
If you are somehow able to get the date,
Yeah.
something unexpected will happen.
Wow. That's fun. We already played a little Hit That Date earlier with Zelda.
Now, Now
I'm warmed up. I'm ready.
Yeah. That was just it was loving softballs.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Ryan, are you ready?
I guess so.
Does anyone have any questions
I'm ready.
before we go? All right. Here's the first item on the list. When did the Virtual Boy release? Now, before you shout an answer, I will go one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Stevens.
The Virtual Boy released on May 23rd, 1995.
Okay.
Wow, that was confident.
Kyle.
November 16th, 1993.
Daniel Bloodworth.
I'm going to say
Don't you own one?
August of 1995. Oh, yeah, I do.
Oh, baby! Ryan I was excited because right off the bat, you got the year correct. It is 1995. But then Daniel Bloodworth one-upped you, getting both the month and the year.
Wow.
August 16th, 1995. 1 point for Ryan Stevens. 2 for Daniel Bloodworth.
95. That was too late.
Oh.
It was too late for the Ritual Boy.
Your old baby. That's another great thing about Earthbound. Like when you level up and like certain stats get like the extra boost to be like, oh baby,
Or oh man.
offense.
I saw oh man a lot too.
Yeah, old baby was the main one, and then
Yeah.
sometimes they'll say sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should specify, clarifying the rules here. These are North American release dates.
Sure.
That
Sure.
I want.
Absolutely.
Oh.
The next item on the list, Animal Crossing on the GameCube. When did it release? Daniel Bloodworth. Animal Crossing on the GameCube. Feel free to play along at home.
Man, I don't have a firm idea on this one. I'm gonna say March of 2003. I don't know if that's right.
March 2003. Kyle Bosman.
September 15th, 2004.
I was going to say what Bloodworth said, so I'll go up a month to April 2003.
Okay. So we have a situation that I did not envision. Daniel and Ryan, you were both wrong. Kyle, you got the year wrong,
Oh.
but you got the date completely correct.
September 15th?
It was September 15th,
2003?
Oh, 2.
2002.
2002. Wow.
Earlier.
1 year off.
I was thinking it was 2002 at first, and I'm like, no, there's too much. That's too much stuff that year.
Dang.
Because you got the specific date right, even though you didn't get the year right, the demons whispering in my ear have decided
Yeah.
to give you 2 points.
Wow.
Not my call.
Yeah.
Not my call. I have to play by their rules.
That
Are we
was
ready?
such a crazy year for GameCube.
Are we ready for the next?
GameCube had good games. I'm ready.
Okay. The original Advance Wars on Game Boy Advance. North American release date. Kyle Bosman.
This is November 10th, 2001.
Ryan Stevens.
July 4th, 04.
Daniel Bloodworth.
I'm gonna say October 2001.
I'm going to give both Kyle and Bloodworth 1 point. You got the day right, Kyle, but you got the month wrong. September 10th, 2001.
That early,
was
wow.
Right on the edge.
Wait, so I get only 1 point for that?
Let me confer with the demons.
Okay.
They're going to give you an extra point. For
Okay.
getting the
Yeah,
date.
yeah. Because Blood got the year, but I got year
I
and
know.
month.
You did. You did.
Okay.
What was
You
I
did.
thinking?
Also crazy launch year. Game Boy Advance.
Yeah.
Oh, good lord.
3D Tony
But
Hawk.
a pretty underwhelming, like, launch day slew of games.
No way, dude.
Harmony of the Moon's good. I don't care what people say.
Yeah. Yeah. That,
Circle of the Moon?
Circle of the Moon.
that
sorry.
Castlevania game's sick. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 is sick on the Game Boy Advance.
Super Mario Advance.
Yeah. It had a
Okay.
really cool launch,
All
actually.
right. You're right. You're right. I think my own perspective of it was shaped by, I think I only purchased Super Mario Advance. Like, I didn't know
Oh, bummer.
You know,
Yeah.
the
other
vocal
goodness.
samples?
Yeah.
You know, when I got the Game Boy Advance, the funny thing was, like, I immediately just jumped on. Actually, I think they came out around the same time. Was the Oracle games, Game Boy Color games? 'Cause
That's funny, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, my gosh. I love the Oracle games.
They're cool.
So running tally here. Ryan Stevens, you have 1 point.
Sad.
Kyle Bosman is in the lead with 4 points.
Unfair.
Daniel Bloodworth, 3 points.
Blood, I do want to recommend throwing a date out there. You've really just been doing month and year. It's
Sure.
worth just taking a shot.
The leader talking down to his competitor.
Because I got those September 15th points for no good reason.
I really didn't think people
Yeah.
were going to get the dates, and you just...
Yeah.
Wow. Impressive.
Yeah.
The next one, North American release date for Wario's Woods on the
Oh,
Nintendo
gosh.
Entertainment
This is a
System.
good one, Ben.
Not the Super Nintendo Entertainment System.
Yeah.
The Nintendo Entertainment System. Ryan Stevens.
I know it's a late release. August 1st, 94.
Okay. Kyle Bosman.
Probably too late.
April 12th, 1991.
Daniel Bloodworth.
April 20th, 1992.
Ryan Stevens is the only one getting a point.
94?
94, December 10th, 1994.
Is it the last game or is
Wow.
Yoshi's Cookies the last game?
I think it might. No,
I
I
think it's
looked up
Warriors
Yoshi's Cookie. I'm almost positive that Warriors Woods came out
His last-
afterward,
okay.
and
Yeah.
he's the last, at the
Official.
very least,
Game.
first party release
Yeah.
on the Nintendo Entertainment
Wow.
System.
Dang, 94.
December
though.
10th, 1994, almost 1995.
That's after Donkey
the
Kong
year the
Country.
PlayStation came out.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's after I was writing about video games. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Good guess, Ryan.
Ryan slowly catching up to Blood. We've
Much
got
respect.
one more item on the list.
Okay.
North American release date for the Game Boy Micro. Daniel Bloodworth.
Oh my gosh.
This is doable, Blood.
July 12th, 2004?
Okay, Kyle Bosman.
Okay. Yeah, I like that year, Blood. That soon after E3 it does make sense. I'll do August 4th, 2004.
Okay, Ryan Stevens.
March 13th, 05. Strategically, I just need to differentiate.
Ryan Stevens, once again, the only one to get a point.
Oh, it's 2005?
September
Wow.
19th, 2005.
Oh,
I knew it was close to the DS, but I didn't realize it was that close.
So,
I thought
this-
DS was 2004 though.
It was. So it's post.
It was
Remember,
way
It's
post.
going to be the 3 pillars.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Dang.
it's not that crazy, but
It's crazy.
despite Ryan Stevens really putting up a fight there at the end,
Yeah.
those specific dates really helped out Kyle Bosman. Kyle Bosman, you are the savior of our realm this episode. You have the honor of breaking us out of the frame trap in any way you so desire.
Okay. I'm going to, because I don't feel like I was particularly more knowledgeable than my other competitors, I'm going to ask them to join in with me.
Ooh.
Uh-oh.
We're going to break the frame trap with our mouths, using sonic, just like a very particular tone.
Okay.
So, to Ryan, to Bloodworth, I need you both at the count of 3 to make this noise. Blah! And that will break us out of the frame trap. Got it? I can't do it alone. I need your sonic waves also to do it, okay? 3, 2, 1. Blah!
Sorry, headphones users.
The frame trap has been shattered,
Yes, thanks.
broken into tiny pieces.
Thank you.
it's funny. I thought more RAM would have fixed the frame trap.
It's not that kind of frame trap.
Oh.
It's a spiritual frame trap. Bloodworth, despite the frame trap coming in and invading, I do not want to cut off any additional thoughts you had about Earthbound.
You said Mother 3, man.
You said Mother 3.
You said it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay, so I was talking about needing a guide, right? And I honestly, like, I feel in a way that playing this on stream is probably the most fun way I could be playing the game. Because I don't have, like, those moments where I just get stuck on something. It's like, hey, chat, do I need this broken whatever? It's like, oh, no, you can't use that until, like, level 40, or until your IQ is 45, so put that away for now. You know, like, that kind of thing. It's like, we can just keep going and interacting, and like stuff like the old babies, like super fun. Every time the photographer comes in, super fun. Yeah, which that's that's another thing is like you get to certain points and like photographer just falls out of the sky and takes your photo.
Yeah, that's something I've noticed as well playing games. It doesn't matter what you're playing. It seems like, I don't know if they're looking it up or they just really love the game, but they are able to help you out. However, I've had a couple of instances where chat is just adamant, like, this is what you need to do, and they're completely wrong, and that is kind of fun in and of itself, like going down this totally wrong path.
Or
and
they're
having that
over
realization.
eager.
Are you saying
and, like,
democracy can fail?
Kind of, yeah.
the other thing that can happen sometimes is someone will get over eager and they'll like tell you a solution to something before you want it, and it's like, no, I don't. Okay, it's like I just walk into an area and it's like, watch out for the trees. I'm like, oh well.
Yeah, bummer. I hear you. Or touch water. Touch water is probably my least favorite instance of this ever.
What?
You gotta explain it.
In Final Fantasy VII, we were playing through this part where you get lost in blizzard. You just like walk too far into the blizzard, and then you have to like find the paths by looking at flags. Mm-hmm. And chat simply said "touch water" in all caps, as if that was clear, as if that was clear advice. Go back and touch water is just the worst advice you could ever ask for. And I realize like these complaints are relatable only to us. Right. Most people listening don't also have to deal with that happening. But also, the reverse is great. Chat giving you details about a game you would never have picked up on, or helping you in moments that you would need help. Mm-hmm. So it works both ways for sure. I'd say more positively than negatively.
So talking about that more positively than negatively, I have seen more and more recently, like now on Twitch, when you go into a stream for the first time, it'll pop up with like chat rules.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Do we have chat rules?
I don't think we've laid it out. I don't think we
Okay.
can find it. But I've seen several of the streams that I've watched were like, no backseat gaming or you will get banned.
Wow.
Like, do not tell me what is happening. And I understand that. But sometimes it also feels maybe a little hostile. Like, if you're streaming to a big audience...
Yeah.
Like, you also kind of have to know what you're getting into, right? Like, you're making a decision. You don't have to. If you really care that much, you don't have to stream this game for these people. How do you guys feel about that?
If you're good, I get it, but it can be very frustrating as a viewer to watch somebody stumble into a situation, get mad at the situation, make wrong assumptions when it'd be so easy for us just to tell you, no, press jump, bud.
Sure. Absolutely. So do you
Touch water.
So do you think streamers shouldn't do that they shouldn't have that mandate?
Only if they're good. If you're good, if you're a total pro, if you're going through Dark Souls without having a problem, absolutely.
How if you're playing like an adventure game or like The Witness or something?
Yeah.
Because then it takes a different tone, right? Like you know what you're doing, and so they're just being redundant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or no, if that person is good at observing things, never gets frustrated, is going
Sure.
through The Witness and just being like, okay, I'll come back to that later. But
Right.
if they're being like an a-hole and shouting and breaking their controller and then like, what am I supposed to do? No backseat gaming. It's all about that person's particular attitude.
Yeah.
I think it can
it's
be
well said.
very much a game by game thing. Like Earthbound, it's been fun in most instances, but if there's something else that I'm playing for the first time, I just might want to figure that stuff out on my own.
Yeah, let me posit. What if it's good to offer suggestions, but it's not good to offer solutions?
Ooh, I like this.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
that's probably the way to go.
Yeah, I like that in theory, but I think
Where's the line?
Where's the line? A lot of people think solutions are suggestions.
Symmetra.
Yeah.
Blood, do you have anything about Earthbound? Anything else you want to get out there?
Not in particular.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just it's been probably some of the most fun I've had streaming that game.
Nice. That's good to hear.
Really,
it's good to find
really
this
pleasant surprise. Even though I figured I would like it, but it's still been a very surprising game throughout.
Panel, I've got a game that I've been chomping at the bit to talk about.
Chomping at the bit.
So much so that I couldn't help myself from talking about it a little bit before we started recording, and that is Gravity Rush 2. I think Gravity Rush 2 is an excellent video game. I really do. What is the panel's experience with Gravity Rush 1?
I downloaded it from PlayStation Plus a month or two ago and have not started it.
Wait, was it just because it was on sale?
Yeah.
Cool. I streamed it. I streamed it for 1 hour back at old GameTrailers and had a really good time.
Okay.
Floating around.
Okay.
Only played it on the Vita. Did about maybe, is it chapter based? I'm trying to remember. I think I did about 3 levels, 3 chapters. I think the last thing I did was finished a stealth thing, which I wasn't the biggest fan of. And doesn't it have like side missions and stuff too?
Yeah.
This was a while ago, and then I enjoyed it, but I kind of stopped playing. My hands cramp a lot playing the Vita.
Yeah. So
I didn't play the remastered.
that's
or
actually
whatever.
how I kind of feel. I've played the remastered version for like 30 minutes, but I played the original entirely on the Vita, and I just remember wishing to myself, God, I wish this was on the Vita. And obviously, Gravity Rush 2, having a controller, it just, not only that, but they figured out how to make flying around feel better. And it's always frustrating when you're talking about feeling in a game because it can be hard to pin down. But going through that world, sliding around, going underneath the building, zipping up into the sky, I feel like I'm doing everything exactly when I want to do it. And it feels great. The animation is wonderful. And I need to talk about the city that you get to. So there's kind of a long prologue chapter. We're on this ship with this mining crew, and then eventually you go to this big city, and it's this giant. It kind of reminds me of Midgar from Final Fantasy VII, but there's this central island that's just floating in the sky, and it's where the marketplace is. It's where the traders are. So you go and there are all these shops and all these tents hanging up. It's got a really good vibe to it, a bunch of colors, and then you go up into the clouds. This is where the snobby rich people are. They're looking down on everybody. You've got big mountains, giant fountains. It's a very ostentatious presentation. Then, maybe as you can expect, you go below the market level, and it's the slums. It's dark.
Coruscant.
Yeah. And being able to zip between all three of these levels, having them have like a different layout, and just exploring, it's almost like this N64 vibe. And the first game had this as well. But I think it's even a little bit better here. Like in N64 games, in Banjo-Kazooie, you would explore because you wanted to pick things up. You'd look all around and be like, oh, I want to go get that thing. I want to go get that thing. Gravity Rush has that. All these gems that you can use to power up. And it's like, okay, I'm going to go off in the distance and find a way to get there. I'm going to fly through this narrow little path. I'm going to see what's underneath this thing. Oh my gosh, there's all these gems. And so you can just spend an absurd amount of time just running around collecting things. And I haven't done that in a video game in a long time, and it feels really good.
You know what was actually really good at that? It was Crackdown.
Yeah, Crackdown was great at that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Roy Orbison.
And much like Gravity Rush, I think part of what made it so fun is your freedom of movement and being able to do those ridiculous jumps.
You don't technically fly, right? You're just manipulating your point of gravity. Yeah. No, I like that a lot. Mm-hmm. Did you see what is it, Padma Inverted?
I have no idea what that is.
It's an anime.
Oh, no.
Whoa. Okay. Tell us.
Half the people have gravity one way, half the people have gravity the other way, and they hate each other. I don't know.
Do two fall in love?
Totally, of course. But it's like it's a non-sexy sort of love. You know?
I'm familiar.
Okay. It's my preferred method. Romantic love.
Yeah.
It doesn't live up to its promise, but I like the premise a lot, and I always kind of got that same vibe from Gravity Rush.
Yeah. The side missions, Gravity Rush 2, much better than what you saw in Gravity Rush 1. When I was in Gravity Rush 1, I feel like they were very much like generic side quests. It's like, okay, go do this simple task. There's not really much of a story here. In Gravity Rush 2, they use a lot of the side missions to flesh out the side characters that you're with that don't get a ton of time necessarily to shine in the main story, and so you're learning more about them.
That's
and
cool.
Therefore learning more about the world. And I feel just because of that, and I think the storytelling is better in Gravity Rush 2. It's not amazing, but it's better. I feel much more invested in everything that I'm doing. Whereas in Gravity Rush 1, I was there for how it felt. Mm-hmm. Here I am there for how it feels, and I really like the world a lot.
Ben, it's a typical thing for me to go and buy a game after a frame trap.
Yeah.
I think I'm buying Gravity Rush 2.
I
think I'm doing it.
It's so good. It's so good, Kyle. Let me tell you about something that I think was specifically...
I'll probably pick it up in a store. Do a little GameStop trip on the way home.
Let me tell you about something that I think was specifically put in there for Kyle Bosman, and watch, you're going to say or hate this, but I think you would like it. I really like it.
Is it a bathroom?
No.
Okay.
No, it's not a bathroom. Sexy bathroom. It's kind of this treasure hunt, okay? Mm-hmm. Where somebody will issue a treasure hunt to you, and you'll have a photo. And all you'll have to go on is that photo. Like, okay,
I dig that.
This treasure chest looks like this. It's somewhere in this world. And you fly around trying to find it. And then based on that photo, you'll find the treasure chest and you'll get a reward.
So it's like the Red Dead method.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I haven't actually done this, so I could be getting this completely wrong. But I believe that you can take photos and issue treasure hunts in the same way. And so it's kind of this cool, unique
online challenge
feature.
thing, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Oh.
Yeah. And once again, you've got these side missions that I feel like contextualize the characters really well. You've got these gems that are just fun to run around, and then you have this additional layer of the treasure hunts, and so you just have all these reasons to just get out there and fly around, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
But on top of that, in the main story, I think they do a really good job of, like, in the first Gravity Rush, after a while I kind of got sick of just flying and kicking things. I feel like you did so much of that. Here, even though all of it is like it's not all great, like you have like one section where you're fighting a bunch of giant robots, and you have another one where you're kind of in this like trial area where it's like, okay, we're gonna give you this new power. They're new powers now. So you get a Jupiter style and a lunar style. One of them makes you like faster, and you can also jump without having to shift gravity. Like you can do like a super jump.
It's low gravity.
Shoot into the air. Yeah. It's a low gravity kind of thing.
Oh.
And then you have the opposite of that where you're much heavier, and because of that you get this super powerful charge kick. And those are really fun to mess around with, and like flipping between them in battles, you do it on the touchpad. So I believe you flip up for the lunar style, you flip down for the Jupiter style, and you flip to the side on the touchpad to go neutral.
Cool.
And I thought it would be really cumbersome that like I would flip and it wouldn't do what I wanted. Haven't had that issue. It's been very, very smooth for me so far.
Yeah, because that's my first fear. When you say do something on the touchpad, it's like, okay. It's
a good implementation of touchpad is a crazy thing to hear about.
I like the touchpad.
I like it too. In Let It Die,
Bad.
It's bad. Yeah, it's because there have been times where I've meant to select something and then you have to hit like a slightly different part to actually eat it. I didn't want to eat it, and then I did it accidentally, and I felt a little bit too sensitive there. But on Gravity Rush 2, not had that problem. But yeah, it's and it looks so good. That sort of, it's reminiscent of a Ghibli style. But there was one episode 9. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I love those moments in games where you see like a vista in front of you and you just say, wow, like I get to go through this.
Whoa.
I get to fly through this. And I had that moment. I thought the original Gravity Rush looked cool, but I didn't have that same sense of awe that I've had with some of the areas.
Did you say wow out loud?
No, I didn't say it out loud. No. Does that ruin
Didn't
the moment
get
for
to
you
that
a little
point.
bit? No.
No, just did you play Unfinished Swan?
I
There's
did.
literally a part where there's a view, and I actually did go wow, and then the in-game character, you're a little boy, and he says almost no words, but he goes wow, and I was like, whoa, I am in sync.
I feel like they do that in Uncharted 4 quite a bit as well.
Yeah.
Unfinished Swan would be really good for my mom.
Yeah, that's true.
I think she would totally dig that game.
I'm never going to get sick of you saying that.
That's a really good like puzzle exploration game.
Yeah, I mean, it does really switch. Like, I know the general consensus, not my consensus, but people wanted it to just be the level 1 thing over and over again. The evoking pain. You know, it switches up. You played it?
Oh, yeah. The blueprint stuff, I love that.
Yeah. I mean, I love that game, but...
And, it, like, you know, she's responding to the witness. There's some... It's not as intense as the witness, but there's some puzzles and Unfinished Swan that are really cool to figure out. I love those moments.
Okay. We got game number 2.
Yeah, not a lot of super tiny
it
stuff.
kind of is the line between a walking simulator and a puzzle game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, it's kind of a good little middle ground, I guess.
Yeah. Although I've now come across why I think walking simulator is a bad term.
Uh-oh.
Because you're not actually simulating walking. The only walking simulator that I can think of is Octodad. It's like if you're gonna simulate walking, you should like left, right,
Yes.
left, right, left, right.
It's fair, blood. But then how will people be condescending
How about those
an entire genre?
How about those power pad games where those walking simulators?
Well, I don't know because I don't think so because you actually were walking. You weren't simulating walking. You were actually walking to play the game.
Well, no, because you cheat and you use your hands
Oh,
to go
true.
like this.
That was the most effective.
So it is a walking simulator.
I've got a curveball to throw at you guys.
Yes.
I am almost as excited to talk about this as I am Gravity Rush 2. I spent way more time than I thought I was going to playing Super Mario Maker the last few days.
Oh.
That's such a curveball, Ben. I love it. Have you made levels?
I've been making levels.
Oh, I can't wait to play your levels. We can make it a stream or something.
Guys, Super Mario Maker, especially now, it's amazing. This is an amazing game. And I feel bad that I haven't been playing it more adamantly until now, because what happened is when Mario Maker first came out, there were a few things that I was disappointed by. I was disappointed by the lack of checkpoints. They fixed that. There are checkpoints now.
Yep.
And they have the whole, like, key coin system where you can create doors, and you just have this whole nother layer for building things. The other things I was disappointed by is I felt like people at the beginning were bad at making levels.
They were.
I felt like for every 10 levels I was playing, like the vast majority I didn't like, or were those shitty, like, don't move kind of things.
Yeah.
And so I said to myself, all right, I'm going to ease off of this. I'm going to come back when people have that out of their system, when they're better at making levels. And going through the list, going through like what's gotten a lot of positive response, and playing through some of these levels and how creative people are getting, it's so awesome. Some of the, like, what they're doing with this game and how they're bending it is just like, even if you have no interest, and I got so mad at GameTrailers when people would, certain members of our staff would be like, oh, it's just a level creator. It's not. It's a really great way to play Mario. And like, it's so, like, you don't have to download things off the internet. Like, I know there are crazy Mario games on the internet, but here it's just like jumping into a level that's 2 minutes long and shows you a side of Mario that you've never seen before, and one that probably a lot of people are familiar with. There's one called Mission Impossible.
I'm not familiar with this one.
Okay, so the level creator, I don't remember who it is. I should be giving him credit, but
Can you say his Nintendo ID
number? I don't know it. The Mission Impossible theme he created within Mario Maker.
Great.
But the way that he splits it up is absolutely brilliant, because it just starts out with the first few frames of that song, the first few measures. Do. And so until you like go into the door, it's just that on loop.
Mm-hmm.
And what you do in this level is it uses the question mark mushrooms. You turn into a block, and then there's this maze where things are shooting at you, and you have to run to the hole and get there.
Okay.
And so you kind of, you feel like you're sneaking to like a cover point.
Yeah.
Like maybe you would as a secret agent. And then after that, there are a bunch of Goombas going down a very similar maze, and you turn into a Goomba, and you have to fit in with them and go down these conveyor belts and get to the end.
Really
that's
cool.
good.
And I don't want to spoil everything, but
Yeah.
that keeps evolving.
Yeah.
And as you're going through these different rooms, the Mission Impossible theme, like, it will get he'll make it. So before it was just like a one do. As you're going through, they'll add more instruments, and it'll get like louder and more intense. And then it caps off with this action scene
Whoa.
where you have to fly a vehicle through a very intense part, and the music is playing like da 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 da, and just the way that it builds and how they thought through all of this stuff, I was like, this is inspiring.
Cool.
And I played another one. Pierce Schneider from IGN made this, where you go through the different seasons. It starts at fall, then you go into winter, and then spring. Or that may not be the correct order, but they're all 4 seasons, and every season has a different look to it, and it has different mechanics. So I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool thing.
That is cool.
To theme your level around. And I just lost myself. I was like, I'm just going to check in for Mario Maker. I'm going to play a couple levels. Like 3 hours later. And nearly everything I played was good, and it was easy to find the good stuff. And because the levels were so good, I was like, I want to do this. I want to be a part of this community.
Yeah.
Like, I want people to give me feedback. And I've never felt that before. I've always been way too intimidated to build levels, and just, yeah. Like,
Yeah. Well, I think this is one of those back pocket games that's like obviously coming to the Switch but hasn't been announced yet.
Yes.
You know, it's
Do
like,
you think the multi-touch would help for level creation?
I don't know. Well, maybe for like making things bigger and smaller.
Honestly, I think no stylus support is going to suck.
yeah, I think so too.
It could, yeah.
I love using the stylus with
Maybe
that
they
thing.
can bring back that little thumb thing on the original DS.
For
Remember
Metroid
that
Prime
thing?
Hunters, yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking about
Good idea at the time.
Mario Maker coming to the Switch and what I would want. And maybe this would ruin the simplicity of what makes Mario Maker so special, but just being able to build like a Mario 64 world and giving people that 3D space and seeing what they come up with. Obviously, that's probably too complicated, but if we could just...
Yeah, it's pretty
There was
complicated.
they did a console RPG 3D maker on the Dreamcast in Japan,
Whoa.
and it was pretty limited. But you know, it was 3D, but it was a Dreamcast game with like N64 style graphics to have that sort of level of
The only
manipulation.
reason I entertained
really
the
have
thought,
action.
though, is seeing how well people have made levels in Mario Maker already. Like, there would be a segment of that audience that would figure it out and produce amazing stuff.
I think Dreams might be cool, Ben, because I think the obstacle
Right.
there is creating 3D elements.
Yeah.
And I think Dreams is designed to make 3D elements, the creation easier with the modeling, whatever we
Right.
do with those move controllers. We'll see how that works out. But I think Dreams might be cool. Dreams might be what you're looking for, but everything we've seen of Dreams looks much less appealing than Mario 64. It looks creepy and fluffy. I just don't want to touch any of it.
Did you play? Did anyone here play the Magic Circle?
Never heard of the
I've
Magic
heard
Circle.
of it.
It's a game about game development. You play a beta tester inside a game. What's her face? Hey Ash is one of the voice actors in it, and the guy who does
Ashley
Dr.
Birch.
Adventure. Yeah, I guess I should call her Hey Ash.
Right. I know his name too, don't I?
Probably.
Yeah.
But it's
he's on that show that we were talking about.
What show?
Horrible People.
He's in it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The boyfriend who lives
Difficult
with
People?
Difficult People. He's the boyfriend who lives with.
Really?
Yeah.
The PBS guy?
Yeah. That's also Dr. Adventure. Yeah.
Whoa. Okay.
Do you know his name?
No.
Oh.
But Magic Circle, it's on PS4, but it's a fun game because you get into game logic, and I don't think anyone's going to play it.
It sounds too meta.
There
for
is
me.
it's also kind of beautiful in a weird way because you're playing all these unfinished games, and it's like 1996 style graphics, and then it's like modern graphics, but the textures aren't in and stuff like that, and you have to like, I don't know, you solve puzzles by, most of the puzzles are solved by like messing with game logic. So an enemy that would attack you, you'd take out its RAM and then you'd rejigger it so it would be your ally and would attack other enemies, that kind of thing. But towards the end of the game, you are actually, like, the epilogue of the game is you are actually a game creator, and you have to make like a level, and it's graded by like how much interest the player has going through it. Like, oh, there weren't enough enemies, there wasn't enough loot and stuff like that. But it's just these like, it's like if you were to play like a Torchlight or something, you put down the puzzle blocks that do the randomly generated stuff, but it's not randomly generated, it's you putting them in there and then placing the enemies and stuff like that. And then, I don't know, that level of like 3D level creation is still something that I see being kind of hard. Like, look at what people did with Little Big Planet, and you see cool stuff, but it's cool to acknowledge. I don't know how cool it is to actually interact with a lot of times.
Well, one of the problems that I have with Little Big Planet is people did make really good stuff, but it never looked very good. Mm-hmm. You know, it like they were trying to create a world, and they were using these components that didn't really fit the tone that they were going for. Like, there wasn't a consistency to it, where a lot of these levels that I'm playing, I'm like, no, this looks like a Mario level. And it's, you know, obviously it's because of the limitations, because they're using, you know, these sprites from these Mario games that everybody knows really, really well. But I don't think Mario Maker gets enough credit for some of the decisions that it makes. Mm-hmm. And I think, like, it's so easy to envision this game just letting you use the Super Mario Brothers aesthetic, like just the original thing, and have that be a very simple level creator. But because you get access to Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers 3, Super Mario World, New Super Mario Brothers, depending on what type of level you're playing, it changes everything. Like, they're like having the cape completely changes the type of level you can make. Having the wall kick completely changes the type of level you can make. But there are not so many changes with each style that it overwhelms you or intimidates you, but it gives you a really good frame of mind for it to be like, okay, I have a level that wants to use the cape. And it's just enough to kind of spark that invention. And if they didn't have those different styles, I think you'd have a much less diverse pool, and just that one thing, and being able to switch on the fly. Like, maybe you're making a level and you're like, oh, this is cool, but what if we added this thing from this other game? You can just do that instantly. Oh, it's such a brilliant game.
Yeah, I really do. I think limitations are good. I think a lot of people were like, man, I wish I could make my own sprites. I truly believe if you could, it would be a bad game.
Absolutely. And what I was saying about having the 3D Mario levels, like, that segment of the audience that would do it, would make amazing things, would be really cool, but I think you'd turn off so many other people. And the accessibility of Mario Maker is done just so well. Even the tutorials that they do with the bird and the lady, and how they present.
I think her name is Molly O.
Yeah, like, it's really entertaining. Like, it's fun to go through and just see those conversations.
Yeah,
it's not just here's what this does sort of thing. Yeah, Mario Maker.
That was my game of the year that year, 2015.
I think it's a 5-star game. Like, right now, if you have to review
it absolutely is. No question.
Yeah. I just feel absolutely sure about it. The one other thing that I want to say, just a little fun thing for me, is they have like these event courses that are not sponsored, but they're from outside people. And do you guys know the band Baby Metal?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you unlock a costume?
So, for those of you who don't know, Baby Metal is this, like, mashup of J-pop and heavy metal. They're this band where they'll have like crushing guitar riffs and then like very happy vocals, and it's a really fun combination. I love the band. There's a baby metal event course in Mario Maker where they have their own like sprite that you get when you get the question mark mushroom.
Yeah.
And you're this trio of girls from this band, and when you push up, because when you push up on any of the like costumes in Mario Maker, they have their own sound, and this is what the baby metal one is. Heavy metal des.
What does that mean?
I believe it means it's heavy metal.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I
Heavy
love
metal.
that.
I mean,
Yes.
depending on context, there could be different interpretations, but yeah.
Right.
That is a really cool thing worth mentioning, is that there's a bunch of like free weird DLC levels that also include a character costume at the end that you can use in any of your levels.
Have they been patching in the new amiibos for costumes?
I don't think so.
Like there's a like
that'd be nice support to see.
the Wolf Link amiibo that came with Twilight Princess. There's a Wolf Link
Oh, okay.
costume in.
Because I think they're up to all the Animal Crossings, and so I guess they're up to that Wolf Link. But I don't think they added like the newer ones that they made for that new Mario Party
Did you
game.
see the Box Boy amiibo coming out?
Yeah,
I saw,
only because of
yeah.
your tweet actually.
Dude, like I own Wii Fit Trainer
Nice.
and 2 Marths because I got them in Germany. Again, I'm like, ha ha ha. These are sold out or whatever, rare. Really tempted. Box Boy is really adorable.
Yeah, it's cool looking amiibo.
There are 3 Game Center CX event courses as well.
Yeah.
And Game Center CX is amazing. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's the show in Japan where this comedian, Arno, plays through classic games, and he's really bad at video games. And so he'll just be stuck in a room for hours and hours trying to get through these games, cracking jokes and losing his mind. And he's got a bit of a troll in him. And playing through the levels, his personality, like, you know, he said he made these levels. His personality comes out because they're not those levels where they're so impossible where it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to play this for hours and hours and hours to get through it. But there are just like a couple of moments where it's like, all right, you put an invisible lock there, so I would die the first time I came here, or like you made this really. And so seeing that and seeing him in that level is a really cool thing.
Igarashi made some really cool levels.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
Yeah, and those are really cool to check
And
out.
do you get like an Igarashi vibe from them?
Yeah, and
That's
they're,
awesome.
They're high effort. And there's some where it's just like, wow.
Is there backtracking?
I think there is backtracking in one of them actually, where you come to this room with this really crazy thing. It's like, how did he build this? And then you come back to that level later on. It means something else. It's really cool.
Did you play Retro Game Challenge?
I did.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good man.
It's cool. It's that time of the podcast, everybody. It is time for this week's HOTTAKE. I need to say one thing up front. We're going to be talking about the Nintendo
God bless
Switch
you.
here. I'm sure a segment of our audience is probably sick of hearing about the Switch. Feel free to skip ahead. That's why we include timestamps. But I want to talk about the Switch.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about it in a somewhat constructive way that's still a little loose in that frame trap style. And so I came up with a sort of framing device for the Nintendo Switch conversation. I'm calling it 1-2 Switch.
Okay.
Okay? So, for each of you...
Good name.
That's
a
sounds
good
kind of
name.
taken, but yeah.
Yep.
Huh.
Yep, I stole that name. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go down the line, and we can start whoever wants to go first. But I want you to name 2 things that you're either hopeful for, not necessarily have been reported or confirmed or anything. 2 things that you're hopeful for that you want to happen with the Nintendo Switch, and you can also lump this into this category, things that have been announced that you're excited for.
Okay.
So 2 things. Then I want you to switch to 2 things that you're worried about or 2 things that have been announced that you feel negatively about.
This is a good segment.
And then, additionally, I want there to be one thing that is not based on any evidence whatsoever, some pie-in-the-sky Shenmue 3 dream that you want to see on the Nintendo Switch. It's not based on logic or reason, just your head in the clouds. Just
Nice.
one thing. Doesn't have to be complicated.
That's the HOTTAKE difference.
Is that
Yeah.
that pie-in-the-sky Shenmue
element.
3?
Yeah.
Like I said, it doesn't matter who goes first. But does
Okay.
anybody have anything they want to get started on with this line of thought?
I want to make these count.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'll go. Let me see if we can do this off the dome.
All right.
So 2 things that I'm really hoping for out of the Switch. So this is a thing that I didn't really bring up in any of the discussions that to me is the hugest part of the Switch is the idea that this console will have more Nintendo games on it than maybe any other Nintendo console we've seen. Even during NES, there were people working on Game Boy games, and still during the Super Nintendo. And obviously, during Wii, we had people working on DS games the whole time. And so this idea of a unified Nintendo making all of their Nintendo games for this one console is very, very exciting to me. And so I think when we look back at the Switch, after it's been a few years, we're gonna be seeing so many games for this thing that it will be unavoidable. That you can't acknowledge it. You got to say, wow, this thing has legit software on it. Whether you want it or not, that'll always be up to you. But I think it'll be a thing where people will look at it and say, wow, that is a Nintendo console.
So we saw them just very recently announce a Fire Emblem game coming out in May for the 3DS. And they've said in interviews at the Switch event, like, nope, we still care about the 3DS. We think that's for a different market, lower price point. Yeah. How long do you think that narrative kind of will continue?
1 year.
Okay.
When you talked about the Advance coming in 2005, the Micro, that was the last year of the Game Boy Advance, basically. I mean, more things came out for it after 2005, but I think the success of the DS took off so much that they just like, oh, okay, no more Advance games.
Okay.
I think that'll happen as well. So yeah, that is really, really appealing to me. And I mean, that was the intent. That was something that Iwata was hinting at years ago, this idea of unifying both the handheld teams and the console teams.
He came out and said it is hard making games for these multiple platforms, and just listening to Reggie in interviews during the Switch event where he said we don't want to have those gaps that we had with the Wii U.
Yeah, so that is one of my hopes. That's one of my 2 hopes. The other hope is I talk about this all the time. Retro's game is dope. I'm not too concerned that it won't be. Mm-hmm. That's just like an all killer no filler development team who's just never made a bad game. Metroid Prime 2, I realize everybody loves, but I'm not going to sing its praises. But anyway, they haven't made a bad game. So I'm really excited to see what Retro's been working on. And my hope for it, I guess, is that it's not something that is easily dismissed. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is easily dismissed. I can acknowledge that. It was on the Wii U. The Wii U is an easily dismissible platform. And so you look at that and you see like, oh, another 2D Donkey Kong game. I was disappointed myself. I was bummed about it. And so it's hard to hop into Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. I sing its praises every single day of my life, but still there are people who would be like, no, it can't be that good. It's obviously not that good. It's on the Wii U. It's a 2D platformer. No, thank you. It's a Donkey Kong game. And so my hope for that game is that it's not immediately dismissible, that anyone can look at that game and say, oh, this looks interesting. I want to try it.
Tough question, but what would make the game not immediately dismissible? What is that secret sauce that you need to see?
It's got a trailer
Okay.
that blows you away with its song selection.
What?
Yeah. It just doesn't have a cheap-looking trailer. It has a trailer that shows a certain maturity, a certain awareness. And so...
It's sort of like the Zelda trailer.
Yeah. So when the game is announced, it doesn't come off as cheap. It doesn't come off... Because I think, honestly, if you look at the announcement for the recent Metroid Prime game... Federation Force. It was announced in a cheap way.
Sure.
It was a cheap announcement.
I think this is a really good point.
Yeah.
Like, you watch that Metal Gear Solid 2 trailer, or a more recent and probably better example, Final Fantasy Remake trailer. Mm-hmm. Even if you don't know anything about Final Fantasy 7, even if you have no attachment to it, you watch that trailer and you're like, this is a big deal.
Yes. Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
That's my hope. Mm-hmm. Spend the money. The money, it's worth, some things are worth investing in. Your announcement trailer is worth putting down dough for.
When do we see this game? E3 guaranteed?
E3, not guaranteed, but I'm betting on it for sure.
All right. Time to switch, Kyle.
Yep. Switch state of minds.
Bad cop.
Okay. So, what I'm nervous about, worried about. Okay, so I'm nervous about Nintendo not doing enough to acknowledge complaints. I'm nervous about... I like it when someone says, oh yeah, we hear you about this. And what Reggie will do a lot in interviews is say, we hear you, but you're wrong. That'll happen a ton of times. We hear what you think about this game. You're completely wrong. Just vocally coming from this company, he's saying, we hear you and we're going to adjust. We hear you about region locking. We're adjusting to that is a really cool thing. I would love to see more of that. I'm nervous it won't be more than that. I'm nervous it won't be. We hear that you don't want to pay for online, so we're doing this. We hear it. Here's how we're adapting. I just want to see that kind of thing. I want to see some adaptation just based off adaptiveness. I don't know, based off what they hear. I think Ryan being next to me is making me question every word that comes out of my mouth vocabulary-wise. Okay, and another thing I'm worried about is... Okay, here's the thing. Super Mario Odyssey is everything I've ever wanted. It baffles me.
Explain that real quick.
Okay, it's a new Mario game that shows off things I've never seen before in any Mario game and areas I've never seen before, and I can control the camera with the right analog stick. I'm exploring in a 3D world like the best Mario games allow you to do. This is much less the Switch. It's more like the perception. It bums me out so much that people are like, humans? Pass. Oh, that looks like a Sonic game. Pass. How could you... The cynicism behind that bums me out. I mean, I've been on the other end. I've looked at new Super Mario games. When 3D World was announced, I said, like, look at it. That's not the game I want. Mm-hmm. And so my hope is just that it's not trashed too much. And the thing is, 3D World came out and I loved it to death. I just wish that people can acknowledge, like, hey, it's the turn for the other people who like those other kinds of Mario games. It's my turn. I got one. If you don't love it, that's okay. But, like, don't trash on it. This is the game I've wanted for ages that I thought would never happen again.
You know what you were talking about with Easily Dismissed and Tropical Freeze being on the Wii U?
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing with Odyssey. I think its success and its perception is intrinsically tied to the console.
Sure.
Like if the Switch, if the narrative that slowly builds up around the Switch is this console is a failure, people are going to say to themselves like, "Oh, I don't want this failure. I don't want that."
Yeah.
And so that will extend into their opinions of the games if they haven't played it. And they're like, "Oh, that's the weird one with the humans."
Yeah.
You know, they'll never get to the point where maybe they'll see the other things in that game. That's what I believe.
Yeah,
anyway.
it's already almost there.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that the weird one with the human? You're so right, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
My dream, my out there wish for the Nintendo Switch.
Go crazy.
Nintendo, right now, has some people on the team, some developers, who are saying, our games are good, but they're not good enough. They're looking at other games out there, and they're thinking, these games make me feel more things than any of our games do. Look, our games are great, but we could be pushing boundaries. And so they're staying up late. They're racking their brains about what they could do to really push video games forward. And they got it. They say, we're making a Pokemon game where you control the camera with the right analog stick.
Oh, the ending of
Ben, honestly, that was one of those times where I start somewhere without knowing where it's ending.
Yeah. You know what? I like where it ended.
Okay.
I don't even think we need more explanation.
Great, all right.
On it. Ryan Stevens.
Well, I was going to say the retro thing, but let me try to...
I'm so sorry to do this.
Oh, no.
I deeply apologize. I am in dire need of a research break, so please
A
talk.
what break?
A research
break.
break.
Sorry.
research
Okay.
break, yeah.
Okay. Well,
But please continue to talk about the Switch.
so I think I stole this idea from someone else, but I don't remember who. There's been the talk about the you're gonna have to pay for online and you're gonna get a virtual console game
For a
every
month.
but then it will be taken away from you.
Yeah.
I am actually excited if it will make a community around that game because we have seen all these forum threads pop up. When you pay full price for a game and you don't buy it on sale, you are also buying into the hype in a, not the traditional sense, but you're buying into the momentum of the hype. You get to go on the forums, you get to post. Now being able to take screenshots and videos, you get to participate in a way that you weren't able to before. And how cool would it be for them to put out some awesome Nintendo and SNES games and have that happen again, because people will now be driven to play these and not just throw them away. Like I download all my free Xbox Live Gold games and my
PSN Plus games, and I don't always touch them. Here, it's going to be like, oh, I'm going to like have to check this out. I'm going to have to play it. I only have it for a limited amount of time, and I'm interested to see if any sort of community aspect builds up on that. I mean, we already know Nintendo has fervent fans, but now we're talking about huge generational shifts where people have not played. The NES Classic was a Tickle Me Elmo for people who are 25 to 40 years old, which is pretty interesting.
Okay.
But you don't really see like that kind of it item for Christmas. But it obviously it was really successful.
Yeah.
And I'm also curious, and obviously younger people are still into this stuff as well. But it's gonna be really awesome if people want to actually like, I don't know, play these games and discuss them and like make them interactive in a way they weren't able to be beyond, going on the schoolyard and saying, I heard you turn into Batman if you jump over the flagpole. Like that sort of like aspect is going to be amazing.
That's really interesting.
I hope. I saw that and I thought it was kind of a way to put some sunshine. I'm pretty sure I did not come up with that thought.
Yeah.
But I wanted to
Idea that
amplify
the
that.
limitation of a month could be a good thing and that everybody will be playing it for that month or else it goes away.
Yeah.
I see that.
And then, they said that Pikmin 4 is not that side-scrolling little poopy thing on the 3DS.
Right.
And there's going to be a real Pikmin 4. And Pikmin's, I don't know. I have bought game systems in the past for off-brand game. I bought a I bought a PSP for Patapon. So, like, I have bought things for, like, off-brand, sort of say. But I also think all of the Pikmin games are great. 2 has issues, but I thought 3 was really successful. And then, again, I'm curious with, like, the 2 Joy-Cons, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious if there's maybe some sort of fun multiplayer way, because Pikmin 2 multiplayer is the secret best RTS game ever made. As long as you don't look at your opponent's screen.
What's actually really fun is Nintendo Land Pikmin multiplayer too.
Oh, I don't think I ever played it except for maybe once or twice in the office.
And it's actually very fun.
I don't even remember what it is. Can you give a brief?
I barely remember too.
Okay.
But it was fun.
Yeah. God, we got to stream it or something.
Okay.
I don't remember how that game
You should
works.
play
I think we're overdue
Pikmin
for a
2.
Nintendo Land stream.
Yeah.
Pikmin 2 with the Wii controls. You can stream that too, and it has a good multiplayer.
I believe that the only way to play Pikmin is with the Wii controls. Like now that I've experienced it and gotten used to it, I don't want to go back to a controller.
Well, that's
And
like,
they
did
give you the
you
option
play
Pikmin 3
little?
even.
Did you play Little King Story?
No,
Which
I
didn't have Wii controls, even though it was a Wii game. Yeah, it's a little infuriating. I like all those games where you have like a lot of little dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. And then Switch. What was the second thing?
Oh, nice with the snap.
Two things
you're-
that have either been announced that you feel bad about, or things that you are worried about with this console or Nintendo.
Oh, I'm worried about it in general, but that's probably not specific enough.
Yeah.
2 things I am worried about. I guess I would say I'm just worried it's gonna. Okay, yeah, I'm worried it's gonna lose momentum. Obviously, it's gonna sell out of the gate, but I'm curious if it's gonna be able to keep that sort of momentum. Like, I would be surprised if it didn't sell out. When it's released. That's very brief. Number 2. Does anyone remember a game called like Wario Land Shake It?
Yeah.
That game had like a 6-week announce to release window, and it felt like this may have been an experiment. And I'm not saying that the Switch has a 6-week window because they had that trailer ahead of time. But I am curious. We've only known about Mario for about a year before it came out. Zelda, obviously, we knew about for a long time. I know people are like, oh, they tease us with these games, we lose interest. There are certain things where I don't mind getting my yearly update, my yearly little spoon of information. I like to be like reminded and see these updates and stuff like that. And yeah, you can like have those updates be more frequent. I remember when Smash Dojo would update
Every
every
day.
day.
Yeah,
stuff's great. And I know like the Facebook page for Breath of the Wild's doing a new screenshot a week or something like that.
Yeah.
That's cool, but I don't want everything to be like announced 6 weeks because we have strategized that this is the amount of time to get the maximum impact and blah 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 and get it to the streamers and I want to be able to like fantasize about what this game's gonna be. Didn't you just do something about this, like the unreleased game? Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw a gaff thread.
Yeah. Didn't watch the video, but you saw the thread.
I did.
It's
Yeah,
good
yeah.
enough.
Yeah, I don't
but
have time to watch videos.
That's true. That's kind of the argument, though, Ryan, is that it's fun to want a game.
Yeah, that, and I remember when there was a while where Ubisoft was doing 6-month lead-ups for a lot of their like B titles.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what's going on here? Especially being in games media, because or especially being at GameTrailers in particular, it's like trailers, bread and butter, yum yum yum. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like we knew Mario is Mario. We knew there's probably a Mario coming, but like Mario's probably going to be less than or around what, like When was that first Switch trailer shown?
September.
It's going to be about like probably a year, maybe a little over a year of like being able to like speculate and stuff. Yeah. Ooh, I don't know. Makes me a little uneasy. Like this like accelerated culture that we have is a little weird, so to speak. And then the final thing is Pie in the Sky Dream.
Yeah.
Okay. Miyamoto picks up a phone and calls a number in Japan. He's in Japan, okay? Mm-hmm. In the United States, a phone rings. Hello? Oh, Ryan, my English is not so good. This is Bill Trennan. Oh, okay. Hey, I'm speaking for Mr. Miyamoto. Ryan, we would really like you to come to Japan and make Star Tropics 64 for the Nintendo Switch. We're writing you a blank check. We really think that, again, Star Tropics has to be developed in Japan. You can move your family here. We'll get your girlfriend and your daughter beautiful kimonos. And, you know, Star Tropics was built in Japan for Americans, so Star Tropics 64 should be built in Japan again. It will not be released in Japan. It will only be released in America. We have a licensing deal with Duncan Yo-Yo, and we really think this is going to be a good thing. It will not be released digitally. People will have to buy a physical version because you will be able to put in weird items that you have to dunk into water to reveal secret codes for people to progress in the game. And that's about it. Oh, also, we were wondering, I know it's a video game, but we were wondering, Ryan, can you make it a text adventure?
There are layers to that.
The text adventure part's not true, though.
Oh, okay, because I was so on board until that last part.
I had.
There will be a text adventure part, a la near
Sure.
whatever. Dishwasher.
The idea of making 64 style games is very appealing to me.
So, question: Star Tropics 64. Are you making it in a 64-bit style, or is it in a contemporary style, but it is called Star Tropics 64?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think it would probably be modern, but it would have that kind of again because of the weird like. I think at this point, Star Tropics did it even have a trophy in one of the Smash Brothers games? Like it is like forgotten.
Yeah, I don't.
There
think
was
so.
Star Tropics 2, which is not good, but it's like it's forgotten. And actually, I know some people of my age really dislike the game. I thought it was interesting that it was on the classic and it has picked up a little bit of love, a little bit, not a ton, not like steamrolling or anything like that. But I really really liked that game. That was very formulative for me when that game came out. And I think it could be revisited. I don't think it would maybe be financially the best move. But
we're only releasing it in America, is what you said.
That's how the first game was released. So
not even in Europe?
I don't think it was released in Europe. I know it wasn't released in Japan. Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah.
I love that you tied your own personal fortune.
Yeah,
into this.
that was really good.
Is this
Pie
saying
in the sky? I mean,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Is this hinting though that
there
like,
is
you
a
would,
Shenmue 3.
Yeah. Are you saying that you would want to make a game like this?
Yeah.
Is that the subtext?
And it would not be like Uncharted.
Oh, I'm out.
Just not Uncharted. Anything else is on board, but not Uncharted.
Well, I'm just saying because that would probably be like the go-to sort of maybe thing. You'd be like, oh, you know, Nintendo's finally going to do. Now I'm thinking about this too seriously. Maybe.
Well, one time I said I wanted Battletoads like Uncharted, and people made fun of me. So it's a
What
good
does that
idea.
even mean?
I want a Battletoads game that's like Uncharted.
You gotta explain it. You can't just say it louder. I
Fists
don't
still
know.
get bigger.
Yes.
Okay.
So what I'm imagining, Ben, is a Battletoad like hanging out against a bar wall, like panicking, and then something like smashes into the wall behind him, and he starts running. That is what, when I say that in my mind, that is what I'm imagining is a panicking running Battletoad.
Is the Dark Queen in it?
Yeah.
Is she sexy?
She isn't. She's not.
Okay.
So she's like not a big character. She's not a big propelling the story forward. So I think she just kind of hangs out on a moon, moon jail.
Moon jail.
Yep.
Daniel Bloodworth.
Positives. I think one of the things I really like, and it's weird because like the 3DS could do this, but I don't feel like we used it. So it's strange that like why are we going to use this now? But the local multiplayer aspect of it. You know, like being able to get multiple Switches in a room and just like play together over, you know, this wireless LAN, and that seeming to like be the standard in a way, like Bomberman and Fast RMX and like Mario Kart, like all like yes, they're doing that. Like 8-player is going to be supported on these games.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's gonna be a big differentiator for the Switch, like being able to do that. Like it's like not just that you carry it around, but you have a reason to carry it around, which is why it's odd that like they talk like there's not going to be a Street Pass. I'm like, so not going to be a Street Pass? You're just going to call it something new? Like I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. Lots to learn still.
You think there's going to be like a hidden Zelda 8-player game that's like not related to the like a Tetra Trackers or something like slapped on it or something?
Some sort of incentive to play it mobile,
Maybe.
you mean?
Yeah.
All right.
Do you think?
No.
No. Okay.
Yeah, not necessarily, but I do like that. Yeah, that kind of is set up to be kind of a standard. And then trying to think, how did you frame the positive question?
So either something that you're hoping for, a positive thing that you believe could happen, or something that has already been announced that you feel good about.
Oh, okay. Well, what I'm hoping for is that we finally like get all of this like virtual console digital stuff like consolidated, like really like, because I feel like there's a lot of emphasis with the controllers on like these controllers can do everything that our old controllers can do, like put together. It's not entirely true, I think, but it's still, it's like, well, why say that? Why put this image of like all the freaking Nintendo systems mashed together up there, unless you're going to have games from all of the different Nintendo systems? And so I really think that now is the time to do it. There was stuff early on when they were, you know, sort of vaguely hinting at what the Switch would be, where they were talking about the new platform being more of an operating system than a hardware device. And so I'm still kind of like bouncing that around in my head. It's like, well, what does that mean? Like, to me, it speaks to more like what the Pro and the Scorpio are doing, maybe not soon, but that hopefully like going forward, like you will be able to take all of your stuff forward. And I think that the Wii to Wii U transfer was kind of a good indication that Nintendo's aware of that. Like Nintendo's always been very aware of backwards compatibility. So now that they're not using discs and all of that, I'm very curious as to how they're going to accomplish that in some way.
So this is something that I've mentioned several times, but I think it's worth bringing up again. I've been listening to a lot of Reggie interviews.
Yeah.
I've been watching. I've probably watched like 6 or 7, and multiple times in multiple different interviews, Reggie has brought up the Nintendo account.
Yeah.
And has specifically said, thanks to this new Nintendo account system, we were able to do things that we weren't able to do before. And the language is still vague. He hasn't come out and said, we're going to unify this stuff. But it seems like because he's bringing it up, because he's so prominent about it, that it is definitely something that is either happening at launch or is at the forefront of their mind. And I do think that that's a good thing. But you were talking about all the systems, like all Nintendo system games coming out on the Switch. What do you think about like weird things that like the triggers on the Joy-Cons are digital triggers, not analog triggers?
I think that's
something like that is
I think that's probably one of the weirdest things. Except there aren't that many GameCube games that really used the triggers to their full potential, like especially that weird little hidden click that was in there. So maybe there's a way of, you know, just emulating that, or maybe just, you know, those games won't have that same sense of refined control. I don't know. So
Things for racing games for sure.
Yeah, it does. So yeah, I'm curious as to how that's gonna work, but I do think that having motion does show that, you know, it may be possible for, you know, Wii games to come to the system, and you know, if it's accurate enough to even do like the Motion Plus did, where it like emulates the pointer. Although I still preferred the IR pointer than the Motion Plus pointer, but I don't know. We'll see how that goes. In terms of switching over to things I'm worried about.
I'm sorry. Did you say 2 positive things?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm worried that Nintendo still seems a little bit tone deaf to like auxiliary services people would want on the system. Like, here's the capture button. Sometime in the future, it will be able to do video. And I'm like, what? Why are you not talking to Twitch like already? Why is like this is not? You should be able to do this straight from the system. So that's really strange. And same thing, like to go along with that is, not having any seeming solution for like the Ethernet port, and so like it's a little weird that they're not doing that. It's weird that they seem to have backed off from like Amazon, Netflix, Hulu. Why? Like that's the perfect opportunity because am I going to bring an iPad and a Switch on the plane? Like you're making people choose when they don't have to.
My theory is, Blood, I think Netflix will be there in 2018.
Really? That far off? I don't think it'll be that far off, but I think it's going to be this weird situation like the Wii U where it's like, like how they talked about, we're not going to charge for online yet. But it's like, why are you not going to charge? Because you're going to be figuring it out for the first 6 months?
I think so, absolutely.
And adding OS and just,
I think they know that a bunch of us, 2 million of us, are going to buy it no matter what. They've already sold 2 million, and so we don't care about Netflix. We'll buy it if there's Netflix or not in it. And so I think that's not a priority. And I think that's kind of a good decision. Sure, it gets people mad, but really you build it up as necessary. And when the people who want Netflix will want to buy it, then it'll be in there, I think.
Potentially at a lower price point?
No. I think it's going to be $300 for 3 years.
Yeah. And the other thing that
maybe a pack-in.
Yeah.
The other thing I kind of worry about is sort of the accessory overload. It's like this question of like trying to figure out, like talk to people at an event. It's like, wait, so does the grip that comes with it doesn't charge? It had lights on it, but it doesn't. Okay, it doesn't charge. And so like, but do I really need a charging grip? Because apparently they like hold charge for 20 hours. So is it just like a pointless purchase?
It is.
And then do I need to buy another charger because it's going to be a pain in the butt to like pull the one out of the dock all the time? Can
you charge it on any USB?
Well, that's the thing I'm questioning, because it's USB-C. Can I just plug anything?
And then other side you can just plug normal USB?
Yeah.
As long as it's powered?
So you're right. You could just buy a third-party thing and put that next to your couch.
You can buy the thing you buy for your phone, probably.
I think that's the case, but I'm not 100% sure on that. And are they going to give a clear answer on whether or not you can, or are they going to be like, no, let's only use the power that came with it? Maybe someone in comments could even answer that. So it's just, and then the pricing on the accessories have put a lot of people off. The fact that the Pro Controller is not for pre-order yet is like, why? Are you going to be a shortage on Pro Controllers? Please, no.
There's going to be a Pro Controller shortage for
But it's so funny because it's like, I had a hard time finding the grip at the event. They had so many Pro Controllers there that why are you going to be like short on them?
Yeah.
So yeah, and the nature of the Joy-Con, the price on that, like once somebody said it's like you're getting 2 Wii remotes in one box, and like, oh, that's kind of true. Like you've got to duplicate so much when you're holding them in your separate hands. Like you've got to have HD Rumble twice. You've got to have, the Bluetooth or whatever twice. So it's sort of like when you add it up that way, it makes sense, but it's still a pain in the butt how much controllers are going to cost. So yeah, that's kind of, that's where that
One
negative
more
is
Switch.
on that. Huh?
One more Switch.
Gotta take it to the clouds, Blood.
Yeah, the clouds. Taking it to the clouds. I think that in the right hands, there is a lot of potential for HD Rumble plus motion. And I think that those right hands belong to Hideo Kojima.
It's a good one. That is a good one,
approve.
Blood. What, if I may, what do you potentially envision Kojima doing with those controls?
I want something that has definitely more of like a psychological horror vibe to it. Mm-hmm. Like something where you're questioning what's real and what's not.
Yes.
Something where what's on screen and what's in the controller doesn't quite match up.
Wow.
And so you're feeling your way through this game to figure out what the right way to go is.
Cool.
This is too good to not happen. Oh, Bloodworth.
That was good, Blood.
That was very good.
Sorry, he's with Sony now.
He's still an independent developer.
I know. They're just going to pay for everybody wherever he makes, though.
So my two positive Switch things. The first one is I really want to believe, and I think there's evidence for this being a new era of development for Nintendo. And what I mean by that is I don't think we're going to be able to say, oh, this is a Zelda game like all the other Zelda games. Oh, this is a Mario game like all the other Mario games. Oh, we're just doing the same thing in a different box. I don't think that's true anymore. I think they're being bold. I think they're being exciting. I think the fact that you watch that trailer and you're like, whoa, Mario's running around with humans. Maybe you don't like it. Maybe it's not for you. But I think that's exciting. I don't think that's something that a past Nintendo would have done. I don't think a past Nintendo would have put a crazy durability system in a Zelda game. They wouldn't have done it. I think that new frontier is super, super, super exciting and awesome. I think also Splatoon 2, that is going to be my second one, just that game. Because Splatoon 1 is so good, and in a lot of ways, it's so not Nintendo. It is a multiplayer shooter. The crux of it is online. There are so few Nintendo things that we can say that about, but it is not like any other shooter. You have these weird squid kids. Who thought of those? Give that man a raise. You've got like this everybody, like there are so many people that play Splatoon and can get into it who can't get into other shooters because, like Bloodworth said, it's not just about getting kills. You can just run around and paint on the ground, and that's fun. Maybe you suck at third-person shooters. Like, it's a very Nintendo thing in a well-worn space, and I want to see more of that, and I think Splatoon 2 is going to be even bigger and even better, and I think that series has a bright future ahead of it. I think it's awesome.
You want to
Nice.
see Splatoon esports?
No, I don't.
Don't want to watch it.
I don't. Like I was saying, I think that takes away from the sort of everymanness of Splatoon. Like, I'm glad that Splatoon exists without esports. Like, I'm sure a lot of people would want to watch it. I'm sure that upset a lot of people, but no. So I just want to get online and splat things. It's fun. As far as negative things, I think the first one is that Nintendo will overvalue themselves. And where I'm getting this from is I think to them coming out and saying, hey, if you pay for our online service, you get one free NES game or Super Nintendo game a month. I think to them, they're sitting back and going like, people are going to lose their minds when we give them Super Metroid for a month. Isn't that so cool? You see, everybody's saying this is one of the greatest games of all time. You get to play it free for a month. It's like, no, Nintendo, you are overvaluing yourselves. A lot of people, your most ardent fans, they've already played this game. They already own it in multiple ways. This isn't as cool as you think it is. You've gotta be a little bit more creative with what you're giving people if you're asking them to pay. And yeah, I think just that general mindset, I'm worried that it's going to kind of seep into other things as well. The second thing that I'm worried about is this smartphone app. I think on paper, it is a terrible idea. We were talking, Bloodworth said, I don't want to carry around an iPad with me, and I don't want to, and a Switch. The thing of the Switch is like taking gaming with you, taking this home gaming with you on the go. Like, I don't want to be draining my phone battery while I'm getting really into a multiplayer game. Like, imagine you're playing a multiplayer game and you're chatting with your friends through this phone app, and you constantly have in the back of your head, I wonder what my phone battery is at.
Yeah.
That's going to take
you have
away.
To plug it in for sure.
That's going to take away from some of it. And I realize that a lot of kids out there do have cell phones, that is a thing. But I think it's fair to say that a fair amount of them don't.
Yeah.
And you're just cutting out some kids from.
Well, actually, I part of me wonders if that's why, because of the idea being that, well, if your kid is old enough to have a cell phone, then they're old enough to chat online. Like,
the old don't get into the creepy white van problem.
Yeah.
Has, yeah.
Nintendo's always concerned about that in communication and voice chat and that kind of thing.
So
having it separate, you're not going to give your kid the phone for the day. So
that's a good point.
Sure.
So I mean, it's still crappy, but it's like I'm trying to put my mind into like, why would you do this?
My pie in the sky dream.
Oh, here we go.
I want Nintendo 3 months from now, 4 months from now, 5 months from now, relatively soon, within the next 6 months from now, I want them to come out and say, tomorrow we're holding a direct. We're going to announce a game that you all want, that will blow your minds. I'm not going to tell you what it is. Just show up. The direct is 5 minutes long.
Whoa.
In that direct, there's one trailer. No one comes out to present the direct. There's no words. There's just this trailer. By the end, people are getting on Twitter saying that they can't stop crying because they're so happy. Nintendo, exclusive to the Nintendo Switch, in conjunction with the Pokemon Company, is making the sequel to Pokemon Snap. That's my pie in the sky dream.
Wow. Can I add one little thing to your dream?
Yes.
Nintendo also resurrects Blockbuster Video. So you can bring in your Switch
Yeah.
and print out your photos.
Just for that one purpose.
Yeah. Oh, you can't rent anything. But yes.
James Urbaniak. Got it. Voice of Dr. Venture.
Oh, okay.
We got there.
Did I miss this?
Yeah, we couldn't remember the name of the Dr. Venture. It came to me. So take your comments back.
That's an interesting last name.
Take them back.
If you wrote that in the comments, go ahead, delete that comment.
Remove.
Not necessary.
Moderated.
Are you guys ready for some emails?
Yeah.
We're gonna wind this
Yeah.
thing down.
Been
Take
going
some
for a while.
feedback from the people that have stuck with us for 3 hours, 14 minutes. Our first email comes in from Brian. He says, "Hey, allies. Storytelling is as heavy as it's ever been in games. And with current technology, devs are able to more effectively convey emotion and character relationships. Naughty Dog have mastered this in recent games, but I do think that leaning too heavily into relationship-based motivations for the player can really take away from the experience if the execution isn't there. I have a hard time finding anything worse in games than a forced sense of urgency that the player has no real interest in. Disregard everything and be worried about this person or thing you've seen for 5 minutes because we need you to be. A particularly egregious case for me is Fallout 4. It makes sense on paper, but at a certain point, I don't need my character whining about their son in every single conversation when I've avoided the main story for 20 hours. It at least seems like games are moving away from the now you have to save your girlfriend kind of storytelling, but the balance between player and character motivations can still be at odds if you aren't allowed to organically become invested in the conflict at hand. What are your thoughts on unearned character motivations, and has it ever killed your interest in a game?"
Now we're talking about ludonarrative dissonance.
Now we are. Slap it on the screen.
Okay. Tricky question. Yeah, I do feel this way in God of War 3, where I don't feel for Kratos. I don't care about his mission. Maybe even better is L.A. Noire.
Oh, right.
Like, there's a point where it's like, oh, dude, I don't care about you anymore. If you lose your job, that's cool. That's a good ending, bud. I don't care about doing good things for you anymore. There's like that lead character is completely unlikable. There's nothing you fight for that person. He doesn't do anything where it's like, oh yeah, I'm really fighting for something good here. It's like, oh, I guess I should solve these crimes of who's starting these fires. That's how the last chunk of the game is. You're an arson now. Sucks. L.A. Noire would be my answer. L.A. Noire, one of my least favorite video games of all time. Really hope that it does not come to Switch, as rumored.
Wow.
Is that a real rumor?
That's a real rumor.
Huh.
I've heard people say it, but I didn't realize there was anything to it.
Heat on it? Yeah, it's probably not going to happen. Please, but yeah, L.A. Noire would be my answer to that. Absolutely, it happens. Where it's just like, I don't care what you care about, dude. I don't care about finishing the story for you. You don't deserve it.
Did you finish the story?
Yep. And it sucks. Confirmed.
So maybe I'm slightly misunderstanding, but isn't that a slightly different thing where you just don't like what the story was trying to make you feel versus...
It's kind of there. It's because of the motivation. It's like, what is this character's motivation at this point? And it's like nothing. It's more of like the video game assumes you want to move forward because it's a video game with more chapters to beat. That happens a lot in video games. Just like the game thinks that you just want more experience points, you want more levels, you want more coins, without thinking of this character you're playing as. Why does this person want to do what this person is doing?
So it's the problem of you're playing a game and they, like, you're in this area now. They made another area that you go to next that has its own look and its own objective and its own things to do, and then they tacked on a story to that.
Yeah, and I mean, the truth is, most of the time we do want to progress because video games are fun, and we just
Right.
don't want to see more of the video game. That's the truth. And so it's not always on the writers to develop that, but yeah.
Yeah, I think what the guy is asking about is actually kind of, I mean, if you've been playing video games for a while, it's sometimes maybe invisible because you kind of are used to just going with the character's motivation, maybe just rolling your eyes. And a lot of times if you don't finish a game, maybe a lot of times you finish a game because you are invested in the characters or the story or the plot. But then sometimes you're invested in the sort of games that some games show off all their mechanics within the first hour. And then some games, leaks, like a Mario game, a new level is going to show off new things to do and new ways to do things. And you want to see what's next from a gameplay perspective versus like a narrative perspective. And obviously there is some crossover there. I think like Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons has a really good like story gameplay hook, I would say. But that's more rare. And I think sometimes when I peter off of games, it's because I felt like I've gotten, especially like long games, I felt like I've gotten enough out of the game mechanically and the story. And, if the story game there is a character motivation, it isn't compelling enough to drive me. And that, like, I don't know if I always see it in the forefront of my head, but I think that may be the reason, like, I do step back and not finish a game. I don't think that specifically answers, what was his name? Brian's question, but that's just kind of my gut response to what he was talking about.
You talked about it being invisible, and there's something that I've made peace with that has really helped, I think, this specific thing, because he's talking about the dissonance between what you want to do as a player and what the character wants to do. And Yakuza is a very good example for me, having recently played through Yakuza 0, because in Yakuza 0, the main story missions are very, very, very intense. Like, dramatic, a lot of things going on. But in between those, you can just run off and play pool for hours, or go play Outrun, or go on a date. Even though, like, on the map, it's like, go do this very dramatic, important thing. The way that I separate it is, when I actually walk to that objective marker, I say, all right, I'm willing to relinquish my own desires. I want to see what you want to do, character. And then when I'm out of that, it's like, nope, now it's my time. Now I get to interpret you as I see fit. And so there's a clear divide that when I make the conscious choice to do the story stuff, that's when I care about that motivation.
Is the story ever so good that it tries to it funnels you away from, like, Assassin's Creed 2, I did no side quest. Arkham City, I wasn't the biggest fan. I like Arkham Asylum more than Arkham City. Arkham City's still good. But Hugo Strange constantly saying, like, 7 hours until Protocol 10.
Yeah.
6 hours until... I was like, I'm not doing any side stuff. Like, oh my God, this is going to happen, even though it wasn't a real time limit.
Right.
So
I actually don't like that.
Oh, I hated
I think that's
Arkham
bad.
City got a big X for me from that particular thing. Yeah. Even though it wasn't a gameplay thing, it was a direct gameplay thing. That constant dialogue thing was just weighing on me so much.
Ben, I think it's really interesting. Like, the Yakuza thing, I think, is doing it right from their design. It would be funny if, when you're going to play pool, he walks in and says, like, the Fallout thing, like, I need to save my son, and then plays pool. So yeah.
There are actually elements of that in there.
Really?
There are certain moments where you can't just go and mess around. You have to go do the next thing. And when you are idle for just a little bit, like, there will be a text box that pops up and like, no, I really should go do this thing. But yeah, I don't want Hugo yelling in my face to go do this thing. If I've decided that no, I don't want to, you've given me this other stuff, let me go do it, let me go do it, I will come at my own time. I don't know.
First level of Deus Ex Human Revolution. Remember, if you explore your office too much, spying on your teammates, the hostages in the real first level die.
Oh yeah.
And that's an invisible clock. Semi-related, when I was a kid and played Chrono Trigger for the first time, when you have the trial?
Yeah.
I didn't realize we got everyone against us. Me and my friend were playing it, and we did everything possibly wrong in that game. And we thought the game was just weighed that way. Replaying that game later, just how people, the idea of like morality systems in games and stuff like that, I was like,
The second time I did it, I think I had like maybe one bad thing and like 6 people. You still end up in jail or something like that.
Yeah.
But there's a weird kind of motivational RP edge. I mean, this isn't directly related. I will throw something again tangential to this. Has everyone here played Indigo Prophecy or Fahrenheit?
Yeah.
I've played Indigo Prophecy, yeah.
First level. I know. Let's not talk about the end, but first level. You play as a character who hides evidence in a bathroom. The second level, I'm using level loosely here. You play as police looking for the evidence you just hid. So you are literally playing cat and mouse with yourself.
Yeah.
It's really weird. It's pretty good though.
Do you just
It
go
is
straight to
pretty
where
good.
you hit it, and then
Well,
it's
no,
right there?
it's up to you though.
Oh,
You're
okay,
like,
that's funny.
wait, I spent all that time hiding this stuff. Should I go find it?
Yeah.
I mean, and there's not really overly tutorialized or like go find it. It's just kind of like you're a cop, go do it. I mean, those games aren't really about the feel good mechanics and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I always thought that was pretty interesting. I'll give David Cage a point for that one.
1 point.
Blood, you got any thoughts on the dissonance between player motivation and character motivation?
I've got the classic,
Ooh.
because I'm seeing this pop up already. Bowser taking the princess. I don't care at all about Bowser taking the princess. I'm ready to hop into some new worlds, play some cool levels, like really be challenged in the game and see some things that I, gameplay wise that I don't expect.
What if I told you there was a cake?
But there are people that look at that trailer and they're just like, "Oh, the same thing again, Nintendo." And it's like, it's like people will write off a Mario game like that because Bowser stealing princess and you have to get the princess again.
I think Nintendo knows that you don't care that Bowser is stealing Princess Peach.
But they
again.
don't seem to know that a lot of people apparently do care.
No, but I mean, like, it's just for a game like that, like Mario, where a lot of it really is about the mechanics and the level design. That game has a totally different tone than if you say, "Hey, check out our new Super Mario game," where for no reason at all, Mario just runs around these levels. Like that feels different. That feels wrong. Maybe it's not a good motivational device, but having something that's very, very thin to frame this whole thing gives it a completely different tone.
It's like after Paper Mario and the 1,000-Year Door, they just shouldn't do it anymore. It's like it's openly acknowledging like how hacky it was, and then they had the princess do stuff on her own and things like that, really interesting ways. After that point, you can't do it anymore. They might be doing new weird stuff. It's very funny to see the billboard for the royal wedding. Maybe there's some interesting stuff they're doing with Bowser stealing the princess. But in a weird way, Blood, I know it's stupid and old, but I think it's okay for Mario to have that motivation. A motivation. I guess.
Well, I think there
that's
needs
what
to be a
I was trying to say.
motivation, but like if say from the comparisons, like say if this is another game that has stars or shines, like it would be cool to me if like there was like something that you collected like that, it actually like builds towards something else. Like if you're like actually building towards a level or building towards Bowser's fortress, like I don't know, like something to where like what you're doing in gameplay actually matches up
I think
to
that's
the
something
end
that-
of
What's
the
the
game.
plot of
Pikmin
Super Mario
does really
Brothers
well.
2? I know it's a dream,
Right.
but is it just you're in a world?
Yeah,
Mort
kind of.
took you into this world escape.
Yeah.
He hates vegetables.
In Mario Galaxy, the stars you collect charge up different parts of the ship
Right.
that will allow you to travel further, which I think is kind of cool.
Oh, so you want to get away from like things being arbitrary.
Right. Like,
Okay.
Yeah, I think like collecting the things should be part of the motivation. That's, whatever the loose story is about.
Did you play Rayman 2? You have to get like the 1,000 lums, and then there's a cutscene where one of the pirate eats one, and then you have the mask on the UI. It says 1,000,
cool.
and it drops to 999. I'm like,
Cool.
oh. It did kind of put it in a weird way. It's a gag, but it did also make it feel a little more tangible. And I mean, it stuck
Yeah.
with me
Sure.
at least.
Yeah, all the lums were real.
Yeah,
That's cool.
That one's gone forever.
Our next email is a very simple question.
Ooh.
And I just picked it for my own curiosity, wanted to see where people would fall. You have to pick between one of these games.
Okay.
I just need a title and a reason. Breath of the Wild or Super Mario Odyssey.
Oh.
This is from Seth. You only get one.
Sophie's choice.
I was ready for this to be easy.
Yeah, I know.
I was positive that I could answer it first.
so good. I'll go.
Okay.
I would pick Breath of the Wild. We were talking about motivations before. like I believe that I will care more about Link's motivations for what he's doing in Breath of the Wild. I want to see that story through. I bet Super Mario Odyssey is going to be a fantastic game. I believe that, but I am more invested in the world and story of Zelda than I am in anything Mario has ever done outside of perhaps the RPGs.
Okay, I'm gonna say Mario.
Sure.
So on a personal level, I just don't have as much time as I used to. Also, as much as I love Breath of the Wild, some of the loot creep, I'll call it, makes me a little nervous. Like, you can cook all this food.
Yeah.
You can have all these weapons. It makes me... I don't want Borderlands as many guns as there are people in Norway. I want a finite amount of things that are interesting. And also, will I end up not eating half of those recipes? Or 90% of those recipes? Very likely. Also, open world for me is always like a double-edged thing. I can get like an agoraphobic nosebleed, and I've liked what I've seen. I've liked the little, what were they called, the shrines, like the micro dungeons.
Yep.
And it's going to be the longer game, but I think with Mario, it's going to be easier for me to access things and just hit off the pleasure center in my brain a little easier. So
Better
purely
dad
on like a gluttonous way. Though, you know, to be fair though, the Zelda's the thing you can gnaw on forever, right? Hopefully.
Yeah.
No, I think those concerns that you have about Zelda are very well founded. All right.
Super Mario Odyssey.
All right, hit me.
So here's my thinking. I'm actually super nervous about both of these games. Playing them in our age of cynicism. I think it was even pretty bad during Skyward Sword. Everybody was ready to knock it down, and everybody's going to be ready to knock these games down. I'm not ready to love Zelda and have everyone hate on it. It's really going to hurt me. I'm still going to do it, obviously, but if I have to choose between one of those two pains, I'm choosing Super Mario Odyssey more than above. Both of them are going to be 10s. Those are 2 10s easily.
Can I just air a personal grievance?
Sure.
I did not play Skyward Sword until well after the fact. Like, I think a year or so after it came out. And just reading the internet, and everyone was saying it was garbage and how it was a terrible Zelda game and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And then playing through and just loving it.
Yeah.
Loving the dungeons, loving the look of the world, loving the characters, and just like loving it so much that I couldn't stop playing it. You know, that feel of a game where it's so engrossing that you don't want to take a break. You don't notice how much time has passed. Like, just being utterly lost in a Zelda game like that. And I was like, that was the moment where I was like, I can't take the internet that seriously.
It's like, imagine if everyone hated Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is the same guy, but they only bring up his bad movies.
Right.
It's like that.
Yes.
It's
Larry
like,
Crown?
Yeah. It's like, what if everybody was just like, look at Tom Hanks' hair. It's like, yeah, but that's Tom Hanks. What's wrong with you? That's Tom Hanks. Like, I don't like the way he smiles. Like, I can't take it.
It's like something has been around for so long.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, all right, we can't like this thing anymore.
Yeah.
Like, its expiration date has passed on cool.
Has there actually been a has there been a big voice saying that Breath of the Wild is not good?
It's going to happen. That's
But
what I'm
not,
scared of.
has it happened yet?
It's there.
There's been a lot of like what
'Cause
makes
I know
this different from any other game.
Skyward Sword,
Yeah.
I think, from just at least from Motion Plus, I think had some people before the pre-release. But okay, just wondering.
And I have to be careful because, of course, there are valid reasons for not liking a game. I've heard great things. Like, I've had conversations with people and I've read things online where it's like, no, you really don't like this game for a well thought out reason. That's a totally different thing than what I'm describing.
Yep.
Where you're just like, you have not played it and you go, it's the same as everything else. I watched this trailer one time and just, that is what gets under my skin.
Yeah.
But yes, sorry, Super Mario Odyssey, why?
I'm less scared of playing that game in the age of cynicism.
So you think the Age of Cynicism will have less of an effect on it?
Yeah. I'm like, if I don't play Zelda, then I won't have to be hurt when I hear the nasty things about it. I'm still going to, just to be clear, but in this weird nightmare scenario, for some reason I can't play one of those two games, and Zelda is the one that I chose not to play.
This leads you crying into your pillow less.
Yeah.
Okay.
Daniel Bloodworth.
Visualizing this.
I mean, I think I'm probably pretty much always going to go with Zelda on that. It just always been something special about the way those games are designed and the puzzles and how everything fits together, and very curious as to how they go with this new direction of kind of letting you explore on your own terms. And like Ryan, there's a lot of that makes me nervous in some ways. There's a lot of, is this world just going to be kind of big and empty worry, and am I just going to have to like walk 5 minutes to, go back and forth to pick up some dumb thing? But
yes. Yeah, you are, man. You're going to have a horse at least.
Yeah. So, but I'm still, very much looking forward to.
Do you have to fight the horse?
Seeing how everything goes through.
That'd actually be rad. Side quest, like the opponent becomes like enraged, and, like.
Well, you can go out and you can tame wild horses.
Yeah.
Can you really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And the ones that are harder to tame tend to have more stamina or something like that.
Wait, so there's no Epona. There's no like this is your one horse.
I think there is an Epona, but you can also ride other horses.
Who are superior to Epona. That's so weird.
You have to fight Epona.
Maybe.
Final boss.
A horse in a forest would destroy you. Our last email I picked out specifically for you,
Oh, nice.
Ryan Stevens. This is from Troy. The subject is the joy of reading.
Oh.
Hey. That's why I said Ryan. Hey,
You also read a lot less after you have a kid.
Sure. Knowing how many of you passionately love stories and games, I wanted to bring up another art medium I love, books. I always enjoy reading a good book and diving into a new story from some of my favorite authors. Because of my love of books, I wanted to ask the panel what some of your favorite books are. Do you have a favorite author / genre? Also, if you aren't into reading, why? Thanks so much.
Cool.
They threw you a bone.
Yeah, I got an alternate. I got a way out.
Ryan, I picked this for you because, knowing you,
That
you're
pin
always
tweet.
you're always you're also always recommending a book. It feels like you're always reading something. You get really excited about certain books. Give the people the good stuff.
Okay, I'll make two recommendations. Saying a favorite book is weird. It seems weirder to me than having a favorite video game.
I agree.
I don't know, or like a favorite movie. I don't know. So my light recommendation is I think everyone should read A Wrinkle in Time, which is a great science fiction series for kids from the mid-'60s. There are books that continue from it. That the first trilogy is all science fiction, then it becomes a weird sort of spy thing, and then goes back to science fiction. But it's really it's written for children, but it talks about things like fourth dimensions and dark matter and things that were kind of, on the edge of science right then, that she kind of just, Madeleine L'Engle wrote it and just kind of adapted and adopted for this audience. And the other reason I'm recommending everyone should read this one, this is my favorite book as a child, I can say that, is because it was turned into a bad made-for-TV movie 10 years ago, but is being made into a movie supposedly in the next 2 years by the director of Selma, I believe, which kind of caught me off guard a little bit. But really, really great. Makes you think. I always like thought experiments. Like, I don't know. Like, anyone here watch Rick and Morty?
I don't.
I like Rick and Morty because it's funny, but I also like it because it does like thought experiment stuff. Like
Yeah,
with science
interesting
fiction.
sci-fi,
And
yeah.
you're like, oh yeah, if you were on a little planet and threw a airplane and it could hit you in the back of the head, that kind of thing. It's interesting stuff. The beast of a book that probably isn't really for. I was going to say another book, but the beast of the book is I'm going to recommend this book called 2666 by Roberto Bolaño. It's 5 books that follow 5 different characters, and there's a thread about a mysterious author that no one really knows. He does show up in certain places, and it has a fictionalized version of Juarez, Mexico. The 4th book, I think it's called The Book About the Bodies, is also really, really hard to read. But then, like, the last book is almost like an adventure novel. It's like basically getting your dessert at the end of the meal. And it's just really an interesting, like, threaded story. You get a lot out of it. I wouldn't say there's, like, one particular thing you can look at. And despite the weird... the title is one of those things that, like...
I think there's like a throwaway sentence that kind of references it. It doesn't take place in the future or anything like that. And even I think the city's called Santa Teresa, and I don't know why they don't call it Juarez. It's just it's a really interesting book. It starts with a bunch of book critics. It goes into a detective and a boxing writer, and then all of these crimes in this, like, I don't know, Juarez is known for, it's like murder capital of Mexico, basically. And then ends basically tying up some of those loose ends, but none of those loose ends. I don't know. It's kind of a hard sell. It's also gigantic. But, you know, he asked, I'm answering. And that's why it came to the top of my head.
It sounds cool. Intimidating, but cool. For sure. Kyle, you had an out. What?
I don't like to read. Here's why. A couple of things. One, like, my attention span is shot. The internet age has made me a bad person. I can barely watch a movie without also having a 3DS in my hands or my phone. It's super hard for me to like focus on any one individual thing, and so just words on a page is harder than anything else. In terms of storytelling, books do a lot of unnecessary things that frustrate me. If you are describing a smell or the sound of leaves crunching beneath your feet, I'm out. Stop it. Basically, the way that I like writing is the way in which everything matters. A character comes in into a scene with a motivation, and by the end of that scene, the character is either moved forward with that motivation or is challenged, or something else new is introduced that gives you either more information about that character or moves the plot forward, things like that. Books just like to hang out. Books like to describe things I don't care about. Books like to have narrators who have little opinions about things. And so generally it's just, I think it's like an inefficient medium.
Did you take screenwriting classes?
I did, yeah. And so to me, yeah, and that's the thing, is like, all of this is unnecessary to me. And so like, it's just like, well, it gives you a little feast of words. It gives you a broader picture. It's like, I don't like this. I hate all of this. A big part of, like, when you grow up, you see, like, reading Rainbow, say, like, I can be anywhere, I can do anything. And I never felt that. I never in my life felt transported by a book. They've always been disappointing to me in that aspect. And just, I'm, like, frustrated. Books frustrate me.
So not even a favorite book?
I do have a favorite book. There was a point in my life where I was reading, and it was when I first moved to LA. I didn't have a car. I had to take a bus to work. This is when I was a QA at Activision. The Master and Margarita is a book that I read, and I really like a lot. And basically, it's really fun. It deals with atheism in Russia, where it's normal, but the devil comes to Russia. And if everyone's atheist, what are you going to do when the devil shows up? Is basically what that story is about, and it's pretty cool.
You know they're trying to make it into an animated film?
No, I'm in.
Stephanie loves that book.
It's a good book. It's a legit good book. It's worth reading. It doesn't have too much talking about leaves crunching beneath your feet or smells, but yeah, it's pretty cool.
Can I just say, I can't remember the last time that I've been mad on this podcast.
No, I'm sure I made a lot of people mad there.
Because let me throw this at you real quick.
Yeah.
All right. Non-confrontationally.
Yeah.
The thing that's great about books is they're so flexible. You can write in so many different styles.
Yeah.
Like authorial voice is such a thing that there are plenty of authors that don't spend a lot of time.
Yeah, you're right.
You know.
Yeah.
And so to just say all books do this dumb thing.
I'm saying all books do that dumb thing. I'm saying when that happens, I get frustrated.
Okay.
I will dump a book that quickly.
Okay.
If you're talking about a smell, I'm closing the covers.
That's something you can't do in any other medium is communicate smell.
No, you can absolutely communicate smell in a movie
actually,
and a script.
Earthbound, I believe, came with scratch and sniff cards.
Yeah.
But
This is what's short-circuiting my brain here a little bit, okay? So, Kyle Bosman, I've seen you play games. I've been around you a lot while you're playing games. And you, more than anyone else I've ever met, says, look at this thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to walk around this thing for 10 minutes and appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay?
I guess a huge difference there, it's my choice. Even in movies.
I see.
Details are like by choice.
This is what I wanted to suss out.
In a movie, when you know when there is subtext, it's not like the author's like, hey, come here, look at this thing. Look at this bottle that's on the shelf. Look at it. It's never demanded of you to go look at that thing. In art, in paintings, you know what I mean? Like the painting is the whole thing. The idea of just having to read everything that's in a painting is absurd to me.
So that agency is the make or break.
What if the novels had all the descriptive text was in a different color?
So I could skip it?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Maybe people can send me books highlighted. I think you're like this book, but I had to highlight all the necessary.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
But actually, that's a good idea because then it is like a painting. You can choose to look at those things if you want to.
I took some writing classes, and my teacher was a big fan of Hemingway, which I think you can also overindulge in. The really like short sentences.
Mm-hmm.
And he had told us every class the number one thing readers skip over is description. So you're not alone. You're not alone.
It just has to have a purpose. Every single time your description has to have a purpose, I believe.
I can just what you've described. I see you reading a book, and the author starts describing a smell, and just before you even finish the paragraph, you're like, I'm out. There's a smell, and like maybe by the end, you're like, oh my gosh, this smell does have a purpose.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a hard thing to swallow, Kyle.
That book came with a scratch and sniff card.
I'm in. Let's smell those smells. They got to have a purpose.
Transmedia.
We got to speak to something that's happening with the story.
All right, Daniel, save us.
No, I'm probably the most messed up in terms of this because like when I was
think so.
When I was growing up, like reading was constant, and I was very quickly like reading adult level books like when I was like 10 years old, as I was all kinds of stuff, and then now as an adult I'm like basically I read like a couple days ago, I was, getting my car repaired, so I bought my book, and that's like the first time I probably read that book since last time I was getting my car repaired, like 8 months before that. So that's been kind of the weird thing. It's like now I'm like reading in between the times, that I can't really do anything else. So, it's weird, and I think part of it kind of goes back to like sort of related to what Ryan was saying is like. A little bit in the back of my mind, there's like, there's always another game I need to be playing.
Yep.
And so this giant backlog of games, and then like correspondingly wise, like I don't know what that backlog of books would be, but it just always feels like it's hard to like get in that space where I can just sit down and read and not worry about anything else. The one series that I have kind of kept up with over the past several years, so more than 10 years now, is the Outlander series, which is now being adapted for television. So that's kind of fun to watch those and then, have somebody point out what they changed and then be really upset about it. But yeah, so it's a really weird mix of like, and it evolves through the course of the series as well. Like the first couple of books are like really like romance focused, and so there's like all these debates about whether they were romance novels or not, but mostly historical fiction with some elements of time travel and such. So
if there's debate whether it's a romance novel or not, it's a romance novel.
That's the thing though. Like I think it was originally like pitched as a romance novel, and all these romance novel fans actually were mad at like breaking all of these rules of what you're supposed to do in a romance novel. So.
That's pretty cool, actually.
That is really cool. Blood, I just want to echo really quickly that I love reading, but just doing this, I feel guilty when I'm not playing games. I'm always having a good time playing games, but when I have free time, I also feel obligated to like play that backlog game that I said I was going to play, or like educate myself in some other way. Like I always enjoy it, but it's hard to just get into that space where you enjoy something else without having that nagging feeling like I could be getting better at my job right now, kind of a thing. That's really weird. But yeah, like you, I all I did as a kid was read, and I loved it. And a book that I was surprised that I love so much is Stephen King's Bag of Bones. And Stephen King, primarily known, maybe not anymore, but my opinion of him as a kid is that, this is a guy that writes super scary stories. And Bag of Bones was about this writer who like was dealing with like he found so much success that he didn't have to work for it anymore, and he was kind of like drifting through life, And as a kid, I had never read a story about that, sort of like reaching that point and feeling obligated to keep doing something, but your heart's not in it. And for whatever reason, that theme like fascinated with me so much. And like, I think it's presented in such like a nuanced, really cool way that the story stuck with me. I still think about it sometimes. But yeah.
What's the bag of bones?
I don't even remember. Like that's the thing. It is a ghost story.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Let's tell them how the bag of bones, how they sound. The susurrous whispers of the bones.
I remember the clink.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. Susurrous whispers, nice. That'd be checked out.
Yeah, so that's something that like books, like the kind of imagery that, like when somebody's bones breaking and that gets described in such a way that like, okay, I want to puke now. So like,
but I like that.
yeah. There's
Oh.
actually one of the things, another thing that's like really common in the Outlander series is there's a lot of like medical description that I can almost barely handle because she's a surgeon as well. So like I was just reading this thing with the other day with her like sticking something in the guy's eye to like pull the muscle out of a broken orb. Yeah.
Guys, we're at 3 hours and 49 minutes.
Oh my.
Wow.
How long does your card last for?
I don't know. It may not be recording as we speak right now. I checked when I came out of the bathroom. We're still good, but
Okay.
we have to end the show. Thank you so much, Ryan Stevens.
No, thanks for having
joining
me,
us.
man.
Yeah, this was great. Yeah, just you bringing up things that none of us would be able to think about or use in the conversation, and that's good, man. I like it. Thank you for staying this long. I'm sorry we recorded this on a Saturday, and I'm sorry if I took away your whole Saturday.
No, it's cool.
I appreciate it. If you want to send an email in on FrameTrap to potentially be answered within a 4-hour time period, send it to askeasyallies@gmail.com. If you want more of us, you can go to easyallies.com where you'll find links to our Patreon, which is a great way to support us if you want to see more ridiculously long content.
Can I save everyone some comments?
Yeah.
Here we go. Obviously, I know books are great. Obviously, I know books are Tom Hanks.
Oh boy.
Like, don't bother. I know books are really good. I
Yeah.
know they are. I was asked to defend why I don't read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Hey, whatever.
Yeah.
Stick your ground.
Yeah.
They've already left the comments, Kyle.
I know. No, go ahead.
Those people that are writing those comments,
Delete it.
they just want to feel.
You're in the betting, right?
Yeah.
I bet there will be more pro anti-reading comments than pro.
Do you think there are people who will relate to me?
Oh,
No,
absolutely.
I don't
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah.
I really
No,
don't.
there will. I'm with Ryan. I think there are going to be more people that come out in favor of you. Yeah. So he knows. He knows books are
I
great.
know.
He knows.
strategy guides?
I know some of the greatest
magazines.
artists were authors. I do believe that. I do believe that's true.
All right. Now that Kyle has defended ourselves, it's time to end the show.
Yeah.
Like I said, go to easyallies.com. You will find links to our Patreon. Great way to support us. Also, probably watching this on YouTube at youtube.com/easyallies. We have a bunch of things on there. Maybe you're not into podcasts. Or maybe you watch this and you're like, I never want to watch FrameTrap again. There are other things. There's a Huber syndrome where he talks about things that he's excited about in the way that only Huber can. There are reviews there where we analyze video games and put scores on them. There's a bunch of stuff on there. Check it out. Thank you all for watching. Until next time.